Chapter 301. Tang Yilua was covered in blood as he staggered out of the arena. Just a moment ago, he was an elite genius who was admired by countless disciples. Yet at this very moment he was in a miserable state. He had lost all his face and was too ashamed to stay on the square. He walked through the crowd with his head lowered and left the inner square silently. Many disciples looked at his desolate back and smiled playfully. Some of them were discussing with emotion. However, most people's gazes were focused on Ji Tianxing. Everyone looked at him with burning eyes. They were discussing and exclaiming excitedly. Their voices were filled with admiration and awe. That was how the world worked. Only the winner would receive everyone's attention, praise, and awe. Who would care about the loser's feelings? At that moment, Elder Yi Hong went up to the arena and announced loudly, "The first battle of the Heaven List tournament has ended. Ji Tianxing is the winner." Ji Tianxing is currently ranked 3rd on the Heaven List while Tang Yilua has dropped to 4th. As Yi Hong's voice fell, many disciples began to whisper to each other again. That's terrifying. How long has Ji Tianxing been in the inner gate? He's already ranked 3rd on the Heaven List. This guy must be the fastest to enter the top 3 of the Heaven List in history, right? Ji Tianxing has only been in the inner gate for 5 months. He's already the sect leader's disciple and ranked 3rd on the Heaven List. He's a monster. He just defeated by Wuxia and Tang Yilua. He defeated 2 elite geniuses consecutively. This is unbelievable. Do you think Ji Tianxing will continue to challenge the 2nd on the Heaven List? Are you kidding me? Senior brother Chen Su, who ranks 2nd on the Heaven List, is at LV9 Mystic Comprehending stage. He's 1 stage higher than Tang Yilua. Ji Tianxing has already fought 2 battles consecutively. No matter how monstrous he is, he can't possibly challenge 3 elite geniuses consecutively. Is he still human? Just as the crowd was discussing, Ji Tianxing looked down at Chen Su who was in the square. He looked indifferent and said coldly, "It's your turn." His words were concise and domineering. It was as if an invisible hand had clenched everyone's hearts. All the discussion stopped abruptly, and the huge square immediately quieted down. The hundreds of disciples all had horrified expressions on their faces. They widened their eyes in disbelief and cried out in alarm. Oh my God! He actually wants to challenge the 2nd on the Heaven leaderboard? Ji Tianxing is going to challenge 3 elite geniuses in a row? Isn't this too abnormal? Is he still human? Don't you feel tired after fighting 2 battles in a row without consuming your true essence? He's too arrogant. Who would have thought that Ji Tianxing would go against Tianxing's plan and challenge 3 elite geniuses in a row? There's a good show to watch now. This year's Heaven Roll competition will definitely be the most exciting one in recent decades. Ji Tianxing is determined to create a miracle today and shock everyone's eyes out. The square was in an uproar. Hundreds of disciples were discussing excitedly. The elders and deacons also had complicated expressions on their faces as they discussed secretly. Only Chu Tian was sitting on the sect master's throne. His eyes were deep as he stared at the stage with a faint smile on his face. Yi Hong took a deep look at Ji Tianxing. Without saying anything, he turned and left the ring. Then, Chen Su stepped onto the ring under everyone's gaze and stood 10 meters away from Ji Tianxing. His expression was very dignified, and he no longer had the confidence and arrogance of an elite genius. He didn't expect that things would turn out like this. Tang Yilua's previous words were right. If he couldn't defeat Ji Tianxing, the next one to suffer would be Chen Su. Now, Tang Yilua's words had finally come true. Chen Su's mood was very complicated. His eyes were very dignified, and there was even a trace of regret in his heart. He regretted that if he had known that Ji Tianxing's strength was so abnormal, he wouldn't have mocked and ridiculed Ji Tianxing. But now that things had come to this, it was useless to think about it. Chen Su frowned as he looked at Ji Tianxing. He racked his brains to think of an excuse to persuade Ji Tianxing without using the giant flaming palm or the treasured sword. As the elite genius ranked 2nd on the Heaven leaderboard and a LV9 Tongxian stage martial artist, of course, he could see that Ji Tianxing's treasured sword was strange. Even if it was a black-grade treasured sword, It was impossible to slash out the divine dragon's shadow and display such a terrifying sword technique. Ji Tianxing's black dragon sword must be a divine weapon that surpassed the black grade. At this moment, Ji Tianxing saw that Chen Su was silent for a long time. He neither spoke nor had the intention to attack, so he said in a deep voice, "Senior brother Chen, draw your sword." Chen Su immediately came to his senses. He squeezed out a smile and said in a friendly tone, "Junior brother Ji, not only do we have no enmity, but I also admire you very much. The Heaven Leaderboard tournament is just a competition between fellow disciples. There's no need for us to make a big fuss. How about this? In order not to hurt the friendship between fellow disciples, you and I will not use any external forces. We won't use any treasured swords or weapons. Let's fight barehanded. What do you think?" Hearing Chen Su's high-sounding words, before Ji Tianxing could say anything, the hundreds of disciples in the square revealed strange expressions. They secretly snickered and discussed among themselves. "Haha, did you see? Senior brother Chen Su seems to be scared." Yes. In the previous Heaven Leaderboard tournament, which disciple didn't give it their all? Who would still care about the friendship between fellow disciples? Ji Tianxing fought 2 rounds in a row and easily defeated Senior Brother Bai and Senior Brother Tang. Ji Tianxing is a double attribute genius. How can Senior Brother Chen Su not be scared? These elite geniuses are not only strong, but their ability to lie through their teeth is also amazing. Ji Tianxing could easily defeat Senior Brother Bai and Senior Brother Tang because of the power of the giant flame palm and the treasured sword. If he doesn't use any weapons, I don't think he's a match for Senior Brother Chen. Hundreds of inner sect disciples discussed in groups of 3 to 5. Many of them were gloating and waiting to see Chen Su fall from his pedestal and lose face. However, there were also many disciples who felt that Ji Tianxing would not be a match for Chen Su if he did not have the help of the treasured sword. Just as everyone was arguing with each other, Ji Tianxing, who was on the arena, spoke. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Chen Su playfully. He said in a mocking tone, "I can't use the giant flame palm or the treasured sword. This is what Senior Brother Chen wants, right?" Chen Su was embarrassed and his cheeks were burning. He was so embarrassed that he did not dare to look at the expressions of Ji Tianxing and the others. He knew very well that everyone was laughing at him in their hearts. However, he did not have the slightest confidence that he could block the giant flame palm and the dragon god sword. Chapter 302. Everyone could see that Chen Su was terrified. He was afraid of Ji Tianxing's giant flaming palm and the power of the black dragon sword. His real intention when he said those words to Ji Tianxing was to limit Ji Tianxing's trump card. However, no one expected that Ji Tianxing also understood this and still agreed to Chen Su's request. How much confidence did he need to have? Instantly, the hundreds of inner sect disciples were shocked, and they burst into a discussion like a flash flood. The deacons and elders in the spectator area all revealed playful smiles and looked at Ji Tianxing with interest. Everyone knew that a good show was about to begin. Ji Tianxing was not an arrogant person. Since he dared to agree to Chen Su's request, he must have enough confidence and certainty. Many people were so excited that their blood was boiling and they excitedly cheered for Ji Tianxing and Chen Su. The deacons and elders also revealed looks of anticipation. Chen Su's expression was obviously much more relaxed. He smiled at Ji Tianxing and said, "Junior brother Ji is indeed righteous and in high spirits. Senior brother admires you from the bottom of my heart." He cupped his fists and bowed to Ji Tianxing, then made a "please" gesture. "Junior brother Ji, please make your move." Chen Su's expression and tone became very confident again. There was even a playful smile at the corner of his mouth. In a situation where Ji Tianxing did not use the giant flaming palm and the black dragon sword, he believed that he had at least a 90% chance of winning. Ji Tianxing did not pretend to be polite with him. He shouted in a low voice and used the shadowless step to rush towards him. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing's speed was raised to the extreme. Like an afterimage, he rushed in front of Chen Su in the blink of an eye. His fists flashed with golden true essence and condensed into two basin-sized fist radiances. They exploded with a huge force and smashed towards Chen Su. Just in time. Chen Su was already prepared. He shouted with confidence and hurriedly swung his palm at Ji Tianxing. A green brilliance burst out from his palms, condensing into two green palm shadows, instantly blocking Ji Tianxing's fists. Bang! Bang! Their fists and palms collided fiercely, exploding out with a muffled sound, bursting out with a violent gale, blowing in all directions. This exchange of moves was just a test, and neither of them had gained the upper hand. Ji Tianxing immediately withdrew his fists and raised his right leg at lightning speed. Like a flood dragon emerging from the sea, he swept out towards Chen Su's waist. Chen Su's reaction was extremely fast. His footsteps shifted, and he dodged Ji Tianxing's attack like a ghost. In a flash, he rushed to Ji Tianxing's side, raised both his palms, and slapped toward Ji Tianxing's neck and chest. Ji Tianxing had no choice but to dodge. He quickly waved his fists and legs to launch a counterattack. The two of them fought in close combat. Their figures were as fast as the wind, constantly flashing around the ring, shuttling back and forth. The hundreds of disciples in the square could not see their fists and feet movements clearly. Everyone could only see two blurry afterimages, constantly colliding and overlapping, but soon separated again. Bang! 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 The sound of fists and feet colliding was endless, constantly echoing in the square. Ji Tianxing and Chen Su both used their full strength. Their fists and feet lit up with the brilliance of true essence. Every time their fists and feet collided, a biting cold wind would burst out, spreading in all directions. As the two of them fought more and more fiercely, a strong wind also blew on the ring, blowing the sand and stones on the ground, and the sky became dirty and chaotic. In a short span of 100 breaths, the two of them had already exchanged hundreds of moves. Although the two of them had their own merits in their fist techniques, palm techniques, and movement techniques, and both of them had taken a lot of blows from each other. But both of them were top geniuses. Their fighting techniques were extremely exquisite, and their defense was also very strong. It was difficult to determine the winner in a short time. Finally, Chen Su could not hold back the anxiety in his heart. He originally thought that in a bare-handed fight with Ji Tianxing, he would definitely be able to defeat him within 100 moves. But he never thought that even if Ji Tianxing did not use the giant flame palm or the black dragon sword, he would still have such powerful strength. He was full of anxiety and anger, so he no longer held back his strength and used his ultimate move with all his strength. 9 Annihilation Fist. Chen Su shouted coldly, and his whole body burst out with a soaring blue light. In an instant, he struck out 9 blue fist radiances, fiercely bombarding Ji Tianxing. Each fist radiance was as big as a water tank, containing 100% power, bombarding Ji Tianxing's vital points from different directions. The moment the fist radiance appeared, a hurricane blew up in the entire ring, and it trembled violently. Ji Tianxing's figure was immediately covered by the 9 huge fist radiances. At the critical moment, he still remained calm and composed. 1,000 Feather Blade. He did not hesitate to urge 3 sword radiances, and used the ultimate move of the Flying Star Sword technique. Swish, swish, swish. The 3 sword radiances instantly split into 9 and flew back and forth like auroras, forming a golden sword net to protect himself. The 9 huge fist radiances hit the golden sword net with a series of muffled sounds. Chen Su's 9 Annihilation Fist was blocked, but the golden sword net was still intact. Under Ji Tianxing's control, the 9 golden sword radiances cut through the sky and attacked Chen Su. Each sword radiance was as fast as lightning, and the power that burst out was extremely fierce and violent. Swish, swish, swish. In just a breath's time, the 9 sword radiances launched nearly 200 attacks from different directions. Chen Su was immediately drowned by the sword radiances. His face turned pale, and he could not help but exclaim, "Ji Tianxing, you broke your promise. You actually..." But before he could finish his words, he abruptly stopped and turned into a painful scream. Obviously, Chen Su mistakenly thought that Ji Tianxing was using the black dragon sword, which was why he could perform such fierce and violent swordsmanship. Filled with rage, he punched back to block the sword radiances and cursed fiercely in his heart. But the sword radiances were too dense, and the speed of the attacks was extremely fast. It was impossible for him to block all of them. In just 5 breaths' time, the 9 sword radiances had attacked thousands of times. When the sword radiances dissipated, everyone saw that Chen Su's clothes were ragged and his body was covered in blood. He was in a very sorry state. The white robe on his body had long been torn into a pile of rags by the sword radiances, and his body was covered with crisscrossing sword wounds and bloody holes. Dark red blood gushed out, dyeing him into a blood-red man. He glared at Ji Tianxing and roared angrily, "Ji Tianxing, you despicable man! You said you wouldn't use the sword, but you went back on your word." Ji Tianxing looked at him expressionlessly and said indifferently, "Which eye of yours saw me use the sword?" Everyone saw it with their own eyes. "Do you still want to quibble?" Chen Su shouted angrily. Ji Tianxing glanced at him as if he was looking at a fool, and said indifferently, "Then ask them, who saw me use the sword?" Chen Su was stunned for a moment, and immediately turned his head to look at the disciples around the ring. However, as far as he could see, everyone was shaking their heads. In fact, many people even revealed mocking sneers. Their expressions were very strange. How could this be? Chen Su was stunned. Chapter 303. At that time, Chen Su was only trying his best to block the sword light and did not see Ji Tianxing's movements at all. Therefore, he was not sure if Ji Tianxing used a treasure sword. However, common sense told him that Ji Tianxing had to use a sword in order to display such an exquisite and sharp sword technique. Seeing Chen Su's dumbfounded expression as if the whole world was lying to him, Elder Yi Hong finally could not stand it anymore. "Chen Su, you don't have to use a sword to display a sword technique." Yi Hong's tone was dignified as he reminded him with a loud voice. Chen Su was suddenly enlightened by his words and vaguely understood something. When he looked at Ji Tianxing again, the anger in his body dissipated, leaving only shame and embarrassment. Obviously, he made a fool of himself in front of all the disciples, deacons, and elders. Ji Tianxing frowned slightly and asked indifferently, "Chen Su, do you still want to fight? Don't waste time." Chen Su suddenly came back to his senses and was filled with anger again. He stared coldly at Ji Tianxing. "Humph! Junior brother Ji, you're too arrogant." He shouted coldly and his figure turned into a green stream of light. He rushed at Ji Tianxing as fast as lightning and displayed his ultimate killing move. Celestial Tyrant Wild Dragon Slash. At that moment, Chen Su's entire body surged with a dazzling green light and his entire person turned into a giant green sword. He flew more than 10 meters into the air and exploded with his lifetime's power. He fell from the sky and slashed fiercely at Ji Tianxing. This move, Celestial Tyrant Wild Dragon Slash, was his ultimate sword technique. It could also be displayed without a treasure sword and with his own body as a sword. Countless disciples saw Chen Su's move and revealed a look of deep shock. They let out an incredulous exclamation. "Heavens! Chen Su actually mastered this move? This is clearly the final killing move of the Celestial Dragon Sword technique. He actually used his own body as a sword to display it? Genius! As expected of a top genius. Chen Su's attainments in sword technique are really amazing." Not only the disciples, but even the deacons and elders nodded in satisfaction and smiled with praise. Chen Su's huge green sword was about to strike Ji Tianxing. At the critical moment, he remained calm and collected. He urged the sword embryo in his body to fly out of his body and turn into a huge dark golden sword. Shwa! The huge golden sword transformed from the sword embryo was 4 meters long. It shone with a dazzling brilliance and was surrounded by blazing red flames. Crimson flames rose and swayed, making the giant sword look like a flaming divine dragon. "Go!" Ji Tianxing let out a low growl. He pushed his hands forward and manipulated the flame divine dragon to meet the giant green sword in midair. An instant later, the flame divine dragon collided with the green light giant sword, causing an earth-shattering explosion. Boom! The loud noise reverberated throughout the mountain peak, causing the square to tremble. The green light giant sword exploded on the spot, emitting green light fragments that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Tianxing's sword embryo also emitted true red fire that blotted out the sky and covered the entire arena. In an instant, the arena turned into a sea of fire and the scene inside could not be seen clearly. The violent and devastating shockwaves and the surging flames were all blocked by the defensive formation of the arena. Even so, the disciples standing near the arena could still feel the terrifyingly high temperature and blazing heat waves through the defensive array. Everyone could not help but be shocked. They thought to themselves, if I was in the arena and was drowned by the sea of fire, how painful would it be? I'm afraid I would have been burned to ashes long ago. Hao Meng, who was in the crowd, was also shocked. He muttered with mixed feelings, Tianxing is really abnormally strong. Qin Su miscalculated. I'm afraid he's completely defeated. Even if Tianxing promised him not to use the giant flaming palm or the sword, how could he have imagined? But how could he have known that even if Tianxing was barehanded, he would still be able to perform a shocking sword art? This was something he had experienced deeply when he joined forces with Tianxing to besiege the sorceress. Therefore, when Tianxing promised Qin Su not to use the sword, he had already expected this outcome. After a long time, the true red fire that blotted out the sky and covered the earth dissipated. The giant golden sword also shrunk to the size of a thumb and flew back into Tianxing's body. The arena regained its peace and the vision became clear again. Everyone's eyes were focused on the arena, searching for Tianxing and Qin Su. Tianxing stood upright in the arena. He was still unscathed, but his face was a little pale, and his aura had become a little weaker. After all, he had used his strongest trump card to defeat Qin Su, the sword embryo. That sword had consumed at least 70% of his vital core. Although he wasn't injured, he still needed to recuperate for a few days before he could recover his strength. Qin Su's outcome was extremely miserable. His entire body was charred black as he laid on the ground and emitted waves of painful moans. Black smoke continuously curled up from his mouth, nose, and head, like a piece of charcoal that hadn't been extinguished. Being heavily injured to this extent, he had obviously lost his ability to fight. He struggled a few times but was unable to stand up. Fortunately, he was a 9th-level profound comprehension stage genius, and his true combat strength was comparable to a 1st-level origin core stage expert. If it was an ordinary profound comprehension stage expert, he would have long since been blasted into pieces by Tianxing's sword embryo. When everyone saw Qin Su's appearance, they couldn't help but stare with wide eyes, revealing dense astonishment. The expressions of the hundreds of disciples changed abruptly, and the gazes they looked at Tianxing with were filled with reverence and fear. No one dared to believe that the 9th-level profound comprehension stage genius, Qin Su, was actually defeated on the spot, and in such a sorry state. Even the deacons and elders, who were experienced and knowledgeable, were shocked by this and began to whisper in each other's ears. Elder Yi Hong endured the shock in his heart as he stepped onto the arena and loudly announced the results. The second battle, Tianxing wins. Tianxing has seized the 2nd position on the heaven rankings, and Qin Su has dropped to the 3rd position. As his loud and clear voice spread throughout the square, a deafening sound broke out in the square. Tianxing had once again created a brilliant battle record, shocking everyone. He fought 3 consecutive battles without resting and actually consecutively defeated 3 of the most outstanding elite geniuses. This was simply a miracle. Throughout the Sky Pillar sect's 100 years of history, such a monstrous genius had never appeared in the sect. Most importantly, Tianxing had only entered the inner court for a little over a month. His heaven-defying speed and battle record even surpassed Yun Yao. Countless disciples were unable to understand. Who the heck was this fellow? At the same time, Yi Hong waved his hand, indicating 2 deacons to bring Qin Su away to treat his injuries. After Qin Su was carried away, he walked to Tianxing's side and asked in a deep voice, Tianxing, Do you still want to continue challenging? Yi Hong's tone was very solemn and serious, but at the same time, there was some excitement and anticipation. After all, Ji Tianxing was already the second position on the heaven rankings. If he continued to challenge, he could only challenge the first position on the heaven rankings, the number 1 genius of the Tianjin region, Yun Yao. Everyone in the plaza realized this and immediately quieted down. Everyone stared at Ji Tianxing with wide eyes, waiting to see how he would choose. Even Chu Tianxing, who was sitting on the throne, looked at him with a smile. Yun Yao did not look at Ji Tianxing. Her eyes were looking at the scenery in the distance, and her expression and eyes were very calm. Chapter 304. Everyone held their breaths and stared at Ji Tianxing, waiting for his answer. He shook his head gently and said calmly to Yi Hong, "Elder Yi, I'm done. I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. Goodbye." After that, he cupped his hands and bowed to Yi Hong. He left the arena under everyone's watchful eyes. He turned around and walked away calmly. Everyone was stunned. The square was silent for a long time. Everyone stared at Ji Tianxing until his figure disappeared at the end of the tree-lined path. Only then did they regain their senses. The Heaven List tournament was extremely important to everyone. It was solemn and sacred. Even the disciples who did not participate in the tournament would put everything aside to watch. The disciples who participated in the tournament treated it as their top priority every year and did not dare to neglect it. Ji Tianxing, on the other hand, remained indifferent from the beginning to the end. The significance of the Heaven List tournament, the generous rewards and honor of being in the top 3, did not seem to be attractive to him. He participated in the Heaven List tournament only to step on by Wuchen and defeat Tang Ilua and Qin Su. Other than that, he did not take anything else to heart. He had successfully won second place on the Heaven List and achieved his goal, so he left. Countless disciples had complicated expressions on their faces, and the admiration in their eyes grew even stronger. I don't know if Senior Brother Ji is too arrogant or if it's just his nature. It's unbelievable. Look at Senior Brother Ji's carefree and confident manner. He obviously knew that he could defeat the 3 elite geniuses. That's why he fought 3 consecutive battles. Other than eldest senior sister, I'm afraid no one on the Heaven List can enter Senior Brother Ji's eyes. Sigh, what a pity. I wanted to see Senior Brother Ji and eldest senior sister fight. I heard that Senior Brother Ji and eldest senior sister are very close. In the sect leader's eyes, they are a perfect match. Do you think Senior Brother Ji did not continue to challenge eldest senior sister because he fell in love with her? Hey, can you not laugh so wretchedly? Senior Martial Brother Ji and eldest senior martial sister are a match made in heaven. Why do you sound so weird? Lower your voices, eldest senior sister and sect leader are both here. If they hear you too can go to the pigsty to raise pigs. Amidst the discussions of countless disciples, Yi Hong solemnly announced that the Heaven List tournament would continue. The 100 disciples who were qualified to participate in the grand competition could all issue challenges to the Heaven Leaderboard rankings. Soon, some outstanding disciples went up the stage to challenge their opponents and began to fight with them. The strength of these disciples was not bad. When they fought with all their strength, the various sword techniques and martial skills they displayed were also very exquisite and brilliant. However, the hundreds of disciples around the arena all had a disinterested look on their faces. They had no interest in watching. It couldn't be helped. Ji Tianxing's 3 top-level battles had left an unforgettable impression on everyone. In comparison, the battles of these ordinary disciples had become dull and boring. Even if the disciples on the stage changed one after another, the crowd was too lazy to look at them. Many people were still discussing the battle between Ji Tianxing and the 3 elite geniuses. There was no doubt that after today's Heaven List tournament ended, Ji Tianxing's monstrous genius name would shake the entire Sky Pillar sect. Ji Tianxing left the inner sect square in advance not because he was pretending to be cold and arrogant, but because he really had something to do. In his opinion, he had already defeated by Wuchen, Tang Ilua, and Qin Su. His goal had already been achieved. It would be a waste of time to continue staying in the intersect square. He might as well leave early and rush to Dragon Mountain to do business. Ever since he received the Heaven Origin Array formation from Wuxia in the ancient Star Palace, he had been thinking about the Dragon Mountain tomb. He only wanted to go to Dragon Mountain as soon as possible to investigate the situation of the tomb. After returning to Tianxing's courtyard, Tianxing rested for a while before riding Qianyu and leaving the Sky Pillar sect, rushing in the direction of Dragon Mountain. Qianyu flew high in the sky and arrived at Dragon Mountain 3 hours later. It landed on the peak of Dragon Mountain. There were guards from the Sky Pillar sect standing guard at the peak of the mountain. Seeing Tianxing show his identity token, the guards let him in. Tianxing put Qianyu into the 100 treasures brocade pouch and went to the entrance of the mine halfway up the mountain. He negotiated with the deacon guarding the entrance before he was allowed to enter the mine. He walked through the complicated and winding mine tunnels and rushed to the deepest part of the mine. In the dark mine tunnels, many odd-job disciples were still working hard, mining ores as usual. However, the Sky Pillar sect's mining method was more gentle, unlike the Tianjian sect's violent destruction. An hour later, Tianxing arrived at the deepest part of the mine tunnel and came to the edge of the cliff. There were 2 rope ladders on the cliff and guards guarding them. Tianxing's identity was special, so he naturally could go down the rope ladders to the bottom of the cliff unimpeded. Not long after, he passed through the dark and ancient tunnel and arrived at the ancient and dilapidated square. At the end of the square, the 1,000-meter Heaven Origin formation was still shining with colorful brilliance and exuding a majestic and heavy aura. From afar, he could vaguely see a few figures walking around the Tianyuan Grand Array. These figures didn't approach the Heaven Origin formation and only moved around outside, as if they were patrolling guards. At this time, a burly man in purple robes walked over quickly like the wind. This man was Chu Huaishan, who had been ordered to guard the ancient tomb in Mount Longshan. When Chu Huaishan saw that it was Tianxing, he couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise. Tianxing? Why are you here? Greetings, Elder Chu. Tianxing cupped his hands in greeting and explained, this disciple has some unanswered questions, so I came to take a look at the ancient tomb. Chu Huaishan nodded and said with a solemn expression, Tianxing, it's fine for you to take a look at the ancient tomb, but you can't get close to the Heaven Origin formation. Tianxing raised an eyebrow and asked in confusion, oh? What's going on here? Chu Huaishan sighed and explained in a heavy tone, more than a month ago, the sect master came here to carefully examine the formation, and there was almost an accident. After that, the sect master ordered us to guard the ancient tomb, but not to try to crack the formation again. This formation is very dangerous. If we make a mistake while trying to crack it, the formation will explode, and the entire ancient tomb will be blown to smithereens. Sect Master Chu Tianxing's instructions were the same as what Dragon Son Baxia had said before. Tianxing nodded to show that he understood. After chatting with Chu Huaishan for a while, he walked to the front of the formation and observed its structure up close. Now that he was an array master, when he observed the ancient tomb's protective array, he could clearly see the structure of the array and identify the 5 ways to construct it. Moreover, his gaze could see through the 5-colored light barrier and the words on the huge black stone tablet in the ancient tomb. There were a few huge and ancient seal words on the tablet, which read, The Tomb of Master Kenshin. On the bottom left of the ancient stone tablet, there were a few small vertical words. Chapter 305. Tianxing's body suddenly trembled when he saw the 2 lines of words on the ancient tomb's stone tablet. A strange light flashed in his eyes. His expression became complicated, and his brows were tightly knitted together. He never would have thought that the ancient seal characters carved on the stone tablet were actually those 12 characters. Before this, he had always thought that this 1,000-year-old ancient tomb was Emperor Ye's tomb. Emperor Yi had been enlightened and taught by Kenshin, so this ancient tomb had some connection with Kenshin. But he never expected that this 1,000-year-old ancient tomb was also a Kenshin tomb, and it was built by Emperor Yi. How could this be? What was going on? Tianxing's mind was full of doubts and puzzlement. After a long time, His expression returned to calmness. Seeing that there was no one around, he sat down on a big rock. His consciousness focused on his dantian, and immediately passed through the black hole and entered Kenshin's tomb. Sush. His consciousness formed a translucent human figure and appeared in the dark and cold space. He flew over the wasteland and soon arrived under the huge sword tablet that towered between heaven and earth. Senior Burial of Heaven. I have a very important matter that I would like to consult you on. Ji Tianxing called a few times, and Burial of Heaven's ancient voice came from the huge sword tablet. What is it? Speak. Ji Tianxing hurriedly told Burial of Heaven the 12 words he saw without missing a word. Senior Burial of Heaven, this is actually another Kenshin tomb. How could this be? Burial of Heaven said in a deep voice without hesitation, it's fake. There is only one real Kenshin tomb, and it is here. The others are all fake. Its tone was firm and resolute, and there was no room for doubt. Ji Tianxing also guessed this result and nodded. I think so too. But why did Ren Huangyi build a fake tomb of the sword god here? Burial of Heaven pondered for a moment, and then said in a serious tone, I'm afraid you'll only know the answer to this question after you break the Tianyuan formation and enter the ancient tomb. Ji Tianxing asked 2 more related questions, and then left the dark space. Sush. His consciousness returned to his body, and he sat on the big rock, staring at the Tianyuan formation with shining eyes. The formation's colorful brilliance was still dazzling, and the stone tablet and tomb in the formation still exuded an ancient aura. In Ji Tianxing's eyes, this fake Kenshin tomb became more and more mysterious, and it definitely hid a deeper secret. I really want to break the formation as soon as possible and enter the ancient tomb. Unfortunately, although I have mastered the method, I'm not strong enough. Sigh. Ji Tianxing murmured in his heart and could not help but sigh. After a long time, he got up and walked toward the dilapidated square. When he arrived at the square, he greeted Chu Huaishan and left the ancient tomb. He climbed up the cliff along the rope ladder and returned the way he came. After walking out of the mine halfway up the mountain, he rode Qianyue and left Dragon Mountain, returning to the Sky Pillar sect. When he returned to Tianxing Courtyard, it was already evening. The Heaven Roll tournament had just ended. There were changes in the Heaven Roll rankings, and a few disciples on the Heaven Roll had fallen off, and a few new disciples had entered the Heaven Roll. However, these were all insignificant matters that no one cared about. What the countless disciples were discussing was still the scenes of Ji Tianxing's 3 battles. Ji Tianxing returned to his room and rested for a moment. His maid, Xiao Shuang, came to the door to report the news. Senior brother Ji, 2 senior brothers have come to visit. Ji Tianxing couldn't help but frown. He thought to himself with some doubt, 2 people came to visit together? Who could it be? After hesitating for a moment, he ordered Xiao Shuang, let them in. Not long after, Xiao Shuang led the 2 white-robed youths into the living room. Ji Tianxing entered the living room and saw that the 2 white-robed youths were inner disciples. However, he was unfamiliar with them and didn't know them. When the 2 youths saw him enter the living room, they immediately stood up and bowed respectfully. They smiled and said, Congratulations, Senior Brother Ji. Senior Brother Ji fought 3 battles in a row today and won all 3 battles. It can be said that you are incomparably valiant and honorable. Senior Brother Ji, the 2 of us took the liberty of visiting to congratulate Senior Brother Ji for ascending to 2nd place on the Heaven Roll. This is a small gift from the 2 of us. We hope that Senior Brother Ji can accept it. The 2 youths flattered Ji Tianxing for a while before revealing their intentions. They were here to congratulate him with gifts. As the saying goes, one doesn't hit a smiling person. Although Ji Tianxing didn't have a good impression of the 2 disciples, he didn't go so far as to speak ill of them. He exchanged a few pleasantries with the 2 of them calmly and declined their gifts. He then asked the maidservant, Xiao Shuang, to send the 2 of them away. The 2 disciples were filled with regret as they bid farewell and left. In their hearts, they were still wondering if they had prepared too few gifts for Senior Brother Ji to take a liking to them. As soon as the 2 of them left, 3 more inner disciples came together and visited Ji Tianxing with gifts. The 3 disciples' intentions and excuses were the same as the 2 disciples before them. To put it bluntly, these disciples wanted to get close to Ji Tianxing and form a good relationship with him. Even if they didn't have anything to ask for, they wanted to get acquainted with Ji Tianxing so that they could have more support in the sect in the future. After all, Ji Tianxing was not only the sect leader's disciple, but he was also in the limelight today. He had created an incomparably brilliant and dazzling battle record and ascended to 2nd place on the heaven roll. He was now the most famous elite genius in the sect. His limelight had even overshadowed the eldest senior sister, Yun Yao. As long as the disciples had brains, they knew that between Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao, one of them would definitely succeed the position of sect leader in the future. As for Ji Tianxing, this new genius, the quick-witted disciples naturally wanted to curry favor with him as soon as possible. However, Ji Tianxing saw through these disciples' thoughts at a glance. With an indifferent expression, he replied with a few words and sent the 3 disciples away. As for the gifts that the 3 of them brought, he didn't even bother to look at them. He also let the 3 disciples take them away untouched. After that, batches and batches of inner disciples rushed to the Tianxing courtyard in an endless stream. They came to visit Ji Tianxing with lavish gifts. Ji Tianxing was annoyed beyond words. He didn't bother to feign civility with those disciples. It was simply a waste of time. He simply went out and left the Tianxing courtyard. The sky was already dark, and night was about to arrive. Ji Tianxing had nothing to do. He suddenly thought of someone and an idea popped up in his mind. Back then, I promised Yan that I would visit him when I had time. It's already been more than a month. I almost forgot about this matter. Thus, he rode Qianyu and flew out of the Sky Pillar sect. He flew through the night as fast as lightning and rushed towards Boundless Mountain. 2 hours later, Ji Tianxing arrived at Boundless Mountain. Qianyu landed outside the Boundless Cave. Ji Tianxing put it into the 100 treasures brocade pouch and stepped into the Boundless Cave. The flames on the rock walls of the cave became brighter and brighter, and the temperature became hotter. Chapter 306. Ji Tianxing could clearly feel that the temperature and flames in the Boundless Cave were more violent than the first time he came here. He passed through the long and winding passageway and entered the spacious cave where Yan was. This feeling was even more obvious. In the 100-meter-wide Boundless Cave, the air was so hot that it seemed like it was going to burn. Wisps of dark yellow flames floated in the air, and the ground and cave walls were dark red. Even the spirit herbs and lingji mushrooms growing in the corners of the cave were growing faster and were not far from maturity. In the middle of the cave, the dozen or so millstone stones became increasingly red like fire. The surface of the heavenly frost ice cocoon, the giant gray egg that enveloped Yan, was also covered in cracks. Ji Tianxing was observing the heavenly frost ice cocoon when he suddenly heard a low and dignified roar coming from the corner of the cave. He turned his head to look at the pile of stones in the corner and saw a huge golden-eyed white tiger. The golden-eyed white tiger arched its body and stared at him. Its entire body was accumulating violent energy as it constantly let out what seemed to be a warning roar. Ji Tianxing glanced at the golden-eyed white tiger and could not help but raise his eyebrows as he muttered in a mocking tone. "You stupid white tiger, don't you recognize me? Or, are you still holding a grudge from last time?" The golden-eyed white tiger seemed to be able to understand human language and stopped roaring as expected. However, it still stared at Ji Tianxing warily. Ji Tianxing no longer paid attention to the golden-eyed white tiger. His eyes focused on the heavenly frost ice cocoon in the Great Formation and called out in a low voice, "Yan, senior brother has come to see you." After he called out a few times, Yan woke up and asked in a pleasantly surprised tone, "Senior brother Tianxing, are you here?" "It's me. I've come to see you today." Ji Tianxing responded and asked in a gentle tone, "Yan, are you feeling better recently?" Yan's mood was good and his tone also revealed a hint of joy. He quickly answered, "Thank you for your concern, senior brother Tianxing. I've been feeling much better recently. Much of the wildfire in my body has been expelled. It's not as painful as before." Ji Tianxing smiled and felt gratified for him. He asked with concern, Yen, when will you recover and come out of the heavenly cold ice cocoon? Yen was silent for a moment and said in a somewhat depressed mood, Senior brother Tianxing, I don't know either. Although Master set up this great formation for me and used the spirit vein and the heavenly frost ice cocoon to help me control the wildfire in my body, it's still not enough. However, there's a problem. If I can't solve it, I won't be able to completely dispel the wildfire, and I won't be able to leave the heavenly frost ice cocoon. Ji Tianxing could hear that Yen was very distressed and worried about this. Thinking that Yen was only 10 years old and had already suffered unimaginable pain and torture, he felt sympathy for him and quickly asked, Yen, what's the problem? Yen explained in a serious tone, in this 1 year, I have been constantly expelling the wildfire from my body, causing it to scatter throughout the boundless cave. Now, I've only released about 20% of it, and the boundless cave has turned into a sea of fire. If I expel all the wildfire in my body, what should I do with it? Wildfire is different from ordinary flames. It is one of the most berserk and powerful fire-attributed energies. It has the power to destroy the world. Ji Tianxing knew that what Yen said was true. Wildfire was indeed one of the strongest flames in the world. It was said that in the savage era after the world was created, the world was filled with heavenly lightning, wildfire, profound water, and thick earth. It was these 4 energies that contained the power of destruction and rebirth that gave birth to countless mountains, rivers, forests, and seas. These 4 ancient and mysterious energies were close to the power of a god. Because of this, Yen only needed to expel 20% of the wildfire in his body to turn the boundless cave and the entire boundless mountain into a mountain of flames. If he expelled all the wildfire in his body, no one would be able to withstand it, much less refine it. If he casually threw away the wildfire or poured it into Boundless Mountain, it would definitely cause a huge disaster. At that time, not only would the entire Boundless Mountain be burned into magma, but the wildfire would also spread and burn the mountains and rivers within a radius of a few hundred miles. Boundless Mountain was less than 150 miles away from the Sky-bearing sect. After the wildfire spread, even the Sky-bearing sect would be affected. Understanding this point, Ji Tianxing also revealed a solemn expression. He nodded and said, Yen, I can understand your feelings and your worries. Wildfire has the power to burn the world. It really can't be disposed of casually. However, don't worry. I'll help you think of a way. Yen responded and said calmly, Thank you, Senior Brother Tianxing. Ji Tianxing frowned and pondered. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind as he considered how to dispose of the wildfire. After a moment, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. He turned his head to look at the golden-eyed white tiger in the corner of the cave and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. A smile appeared in his eyes. He carefully sized up the golden-eyed white tiger and said in a playful tone, Yen, that golden-eyed white tiger has been entrenched here for nearly a year, silently guarding you, right? Yen didn't think too much about it and replied subconsciously, Yes, Senior Brother Tianxing, is there a problem? Ji Tianxing smiled and said, Yen, that golden-eyed white tiger has been guarding you for a year. I see that it has refined a lot of the wildfire's power and can control it. You can expel the wildfire from your body and try to let the golden-eyed white tiger refine it. Maybe it can absorb the wildfire. Yen was startled and asked hesitantly, Senior Brother Tianxing, will this work? There won't be any problems, right? Ji Tianxing said with a solemn expression, There may be some risks, but this should be the most reliable method. We're just trying it out. If it doesn't work, we'll stop in time. If it works, it'll be the best of both worlds. Not only can you get rid of the pain of being burned by the wildfire, but the golden-eyed white tiger can also refine the wildfire and greatly increase its strength. To it, this is also a fortuitous encounter and good fortune. After listening to Ji Tianxing's persuasion, Yen thought for a moment before making up his mind to give it a try. Okay, Senior Brother Tianxing, we'll do as you say and give it a try. The golden-eyed white tiger had guarded him for a year and had a certain level of trust and affection with him. If Ji Tianxing's method worked, not only could he get rid of the torture of the wildfire, but the golden-eyed white tiger could also refine the wildfire and become a higher-level spirit beast. This was indeed the best of both worlds. Seeing that Yen agreed, Ji Tianxing opened the 100 treasures brocade pouch and released Qianyu. He ordered the contract. Qianyu, go talk to that golden-eyed white tiger. Ask it if it can refine the wildfire's power in Yen Er's body. Okay, leave it to me. Chapter 307. Qianyu looked down at the golden-eyed white tiger and asked in a special beast language. Hey, little white. Your little master wants to give you the wildfire in his body. Do you want it? The golden-eyed white tiger was originally staring at it with an indifferent gaze and a vigilant posture. Suddenly hearing this, the golden-eyed white tiger immediately jumped out of the stone pile and roared at Yen Er, who was in the heavenly ice cocoon. Ji Tianxing and Yen Er did not understand what it meant, but Qianyu understood. He smiled and explained to Ji Tianxing, Old Ji, little white is very excited and said I want it. What? Qianyu's tone was strange and his eyes revealed a trace of foxy charm. Ji Tianxing pretended not to hear anything and said to Yen Er with a serious expression, Yen Er, first use your power to force out a ball of wildfire and see if the golden-eyed white tiger can refine it. Yen Er did as he was told and immediately used his power to expel the wildfire in his body. Soon, wisps of yellowish-brown flames overflowed from the cracks of the heavenly ice cocoon. Ji Tianxing used his lifetime's power to gather in his left arm, causing his entire left arm to turn scarlet red. He reached out his left hand and grabbed the wildfire, mixing the wisps of wildfire into a yellowish-brown ball of light. As more and more wildfire overflowed from the heavenly ice cocoon, the ball of wildfire in his left hand grew bigger and bigger. After 100 breaths of time, Yen Er stopped using his power. The ball of wildfire in Ji Tianxing's left hand had also grown to the size of an egg. Yen Er said worriedly, Senior brother Tianxing, be careful. Don't get hurt by the wildfire. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Ji Tianxing shook his head gently, indicating that he did not need to worry. Although he held the ball of wildfire in his left hand, the wildfire's extreme heat and violent power was more domineering than his scarlet true fire. However, he would only be in contact with the wildfire for a short period of time and would not be hurt. Qianyu, tell the golden-eyed white tiger to sacrifice its demon core and see if it can refine this ball of wildfire. Qianyu nodded and jumped in front of the golden-eyed white tiger and spoke to it in beast language. The golden-eyed white tiger roared again and stared at the wildfire in Ji Tianxing's hand, revealing a look of desire. It circled around Ji Tianxing twice to make sure that Ji Tianxing had no ill intentions. Only then did it let down its guard. It carefully opened its mouth and spat out an egg-sized yellow pill. This pill, which was completely condensed from Yuan Qi and demonic power, was the demonic pill of the golden-eyed white tiger. Only a greater demon whose strength was comparable to an origin core martial artist was able to condense a demon core within their body. It was white tiger was white tiger, was white tiger white tigers. It was beast was to be careful not it to dragon, white tiger was white tiger it white tiger slowly white tiger white tiger. Slowly white tiger white it slowly white. Then the demon core released a strong devouring power and gradually swallowed the ball of wildfire. The demon core was enveloped by the yellowish-brown wildfire and started to spin faster. Ji Tianxing stared at the golden-eyed white tiger and the demon core, observing its reaction. Fortunately, the golden-eyed white tiger was lying on the ground quietly and focused on refining the wildfire. There was no abnormal reaction. Its demon core was also spinning without any abnormalities. After about 15 minutes, the demon core completely absorbed the ball of wildfire. The golden-eyed white tiger opened its mouth and swallowed the demon core back into its body. It got up and moved around for a while. Its aura became stronger, and the flames around its body became more violent and blazing. It was obvious that the golden-eyed white tiger had successfully refined the ball of wildfire. There was no adverse reaction, and its strength had increased by a lot. Ji Tianxing immediately smiled and said to Yen, I was right. In this year, the golden-eyed white tiger has already refined a large amount of wildfire. Now, it can quickly refine and absorb the wildfire that you expel. Yen was also excited. She said happily, Senior brother Tianxing, thank you. I'm finally saved. Ji Tianxing nodded and said calmly, Yen, we can't be happy too early. This matter needs a process. You have to wait patiently. How about this? You continue to expel the wildfire from your body. I'll help you transfer it and let the golden-eyed white tiger refine it bit by bit. Thank you, Senior brother Tianxing. Yen quickly nodded and thanked him in a clear voice. Next, Yen focused on cultivating in the heavenly frost ice cocoon, expelling the wildfire from her body. Ji Tianxing sat on a millstone outside the ice cocoon. He used his left hand to collect strands of wildfire and mix them into balls of wildfire. To ensure that there were no accidents, he mixed the wildfire to the size of an egg and gave it to the golden-eyed white tiger to refine. In the beginning, the golden-eyed white tiger still needed to use its demon core to refine the wildfire. Not only did this process have to be careful, but it also wasted a lot of time. Later on, after the golden-eyed white tiger refined more than a dozen balls of wildfire, its control of the wildfire became stronger. It did not need to use its demon core. It could open its mouth and swallow the wildfire in one gulp and quickly refine it. As time passed, it swallowed more and more wildfire, and its strength was rapidly increasing. Its aura became stronger and stronger. Even the flames surging all over its body became more dazzling. Unknowingly, a day passed. The golden-eyed white tiger swallowed more than 300 balls of wildfire. Its strength had nearly doubled, and its body had also grown bigger. Ji Tianxing saw the changes and asked Yen, how much wildfire is left in your body? Yen quickly answered, Senior brother Tianxing, I've already expelled 30%. Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows. A look of surprise flashed across his eyes. He thought to himself with a heart full of shock, Yen only expelled 30% of the wildfire, and it made a great demon-level golden-eyed white tiger have such a huge change. Its strength increased by a realm. If he expelled all of the wildfire, wouldn't this golden-eyed white tiger's strength increase another 2 realms? Too inconceivable. The wildfire treasured body is actually so powerful. After his emotions calmed down, Ji Tianxing continued to get busy again. Yen continuously circulated his power to expel the wildfire. The pain and torture his body suffered also became weaker and weaker. Countless wildfires surged out of the cracks in the ice cocoon. Ji Tianxing constantly waved his left hand, collecting the wildfire and giving it to the golden-eyed white tiger to devour. The golden-eyed white tiger was in high spirits, appearing very excited. It seemed to be tireless, like a bottomless pit, continuously devouring ball after ball of wildfire. Its strength also constantly skyrocketed. Very soon, 3 days and 3 nights passed. Yen finally completely expelled the wildfire in his body, successfully dispelling the wildfire-treasured body. Chapter 308. After the golden-eyed white tiger swallowed all of the wildfire, it was finally unable to bear the burden and fell into a deep sleep on the ground. Although it wouldn't be in any danger, it still needed to sleep for a period of time before it could completely refine the wildfire. Ji Tianxing could sense that the golden-eyed white tiger's strength was originally only equivalent to the first level of the origin core stage. After it swallowed Yen's wildfire, it actually reached a level comparable to the 4th level of the origin core stage. Right at this moment, a burst of cracking sounds sounded out. Ji Tianxing turned his head to look and noticed that the grayish-white enormous egg, the heavenly frost ice cocoon, was quickly breaking apart and collapsing. The cracks on the eggshell grew larger and larger, and it soon completely shattered. After the heavenly frost ice cocoon completely shattered, a little boy around the age of 10 appeared before Ji Tianxing. This boy wore a white robe. He wasn't tall, and his figure was slightly thin and weak. He had a head of dark red hair. His little face was fair and handsome, with an exotic temperament unique to the Fire Clan, and there was even a crimson-red flame mark on his forehead. When he saw his appearance clearly, Ji Tianxing couldn't help but secretly think in his heart that Fire Emperor and Fire Empress must be dragons and phoenixes among men. Otherwise, how could they give birth to such a handsome little genius like Yen? Yen was sitting on the shattered eggshell with his palms spread out on his knees. Two balls of flames of different colors rose from his palms. His left hand was the black extreme frostine flame, and his right hand was the purple crimson sun violet flame. Two types of flames with opposite attributes surged in his palms, but they revealed a mysterious and domineering aura. Without the shackles and torment of the wildfire, he recovered his outstanding martial Dao talent and could perfectly control two innate bloodlines, freely withdrawing and releasing two types of flame energy. Yen had just gotten rid of the wildfire treasured body, so he also needed to circulate his energy and recuperate for a period of time before he could leave this great formation. Ji Tianxing saw that he and the golden-eyed white tiger both needed to recuperate, so he sat cross-legged in the cave and closed his eyes to rest while silently waiting. Time quietly passed and a day quickly passed. The golden-eyed white tiger was the first to wake up. It opened its big eyes and looked around. Its gaze fell on Yen. It couldn't enter the array, so it lay down near the millstone. It stared at Yen without blinking, silently guarding him. Not long after, Yen also ended his cultivation and truly woke up. He opened his eyes and saw Ji Tianxing sitting not far away. A smile appeared on his handsome little face as he hurriedly shouted, "Senior brother Tianxing." Ji Tianxing nodded to him and asked with a smile, "Yen, how do you feel now?" Yen hurriedly nodded and said with joy, "Senior apprentice brother Tianxing, I've already completely recovered. I don't need to be troubled by the wildfire anymore." "Senior brother Tianxing, thank you so much. If it weren't for your help, I don't know how long it would take for me to recover." As he spoke, he got up and walked out of the array towards Ji Tianxing. Just as he walked past the millstone, the golden-eyed white tiger hurriedly came over and used its head to gently rub his leg. Yen lowered his head to look at the docile golden-eyed white tiger and could not help revealing a face full of smiles. He reached out and touched the golden horn on the golden-eyed white tiger's head and said with a smile, "Little White, thank you for protecting me this year." The originally fierce and mighty golden-eyed white tiger was obedient to the extreme in front of Yen, allowing him to stroke the horn on its head. Yen walked to Ji Tianxing's side. The golden-eyed white tiger followed closely behind him. Ji Tianxing chatted with Yen for a while and was about to bring him out of the endless cave. "Yen, you slept in the endless cave for so long. Master and eldest senior sister both missed you very much. Now that you finally got rid of the nightmare and recovered, let's return to the sect as soon as possible and report the good news to Master and eldest senior sister." Yen nodded repeatedly and said, "Okay." The two turned around and left the endless cave, passing through the narrow and winding passage, and walked out of the mountain. The golden-eyed white tiger followed behind Yen, step by step. Clearly, it was unwilling to leave. When the two walked out of the endless cave and arrived at the entrance of the cave, the sun had just risen. When Ji Tianxing saw the golden-eyed white tiger following Yen closely, he could not help but laugh and tease, "Junior brother Yen, this white tiger has been with you for a year and has refined your wildfire. It seems that it is determined to stick to you. Since it is so intelligent and refuses to leave, why don't you kindly take it in and be a pet beast companion?" Yen was also quite moved. He hurriedly turned his head to look at the golden-eyed white tiger and asked with a serious face, "Little White, are you willing to follow me and be my pet beast companion?" The golden-eyed white tiger could not speak human language for the time being. It just looked at Yen quietly and did not react. Yen immediately clapped his hands happily and said with a face full of joy, "You didn't refuse, then I'll take it as your acquiescence." With that, he stretched out his hands and hugged the golden-eyed white tiger's neck, rubbing against its furry body a few times. The golden-eyed white tiger hurriedly lowered its front body and let Yen sit on its back. After Yen sat firmly, the golden-eyed white tiger took a step forward and ran wildly towards the foot of the mountain. Swish! As the golden-eyed white tiger ran with all its might, its body turned into a white afterimage as fast as the wind. Yen adjusted his balance and tried to ride the golden-eyed white tiger through the mountain forest. Even after the white tiger had run far away, Yen's happy and innocent laughter still echoed in the mountain forest. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing also revealed a smile and hurriedly chased after him on Qianyu. Under the golden morning sun, the mountains were resplendent and full of greenery. The golden-eyed white tiger carried Yen and ran between the mountains, returning in the direction of the Sky Pillar sect. Ji Tianxing rode Qianyu and flew high in the sky, following closely behind the golden-eyed white tiger and Yen. Seeing the golden-eyed white tiger running wildly and Yen laughing to his heart's content, his mood became much better. He could guess that perhaps Yen was originally a cheerful and lively child. Ever since he was burned by the wildfire, he had always been suffering pain and suffering. This year in the boundless cave was even more lonely and lonely. Most likely, Yen had not laughed to his heart's content for many years already, right? Unknowingly, 2 hours passed. The golden-eyed white tiger carried Yen and was currently running at full speed on a towering mountain. Crossing this mountain peak and walking another 100 miles forward, they would be able to return to the Sky Pillar sect. But right at this time, the golden-eyed white tiger suddenly seemed to have crashed into an invisible wall, being sent flying back with a bang. The golden-eyed white tiger rolled and fell into the mountain forest, smashing onto the ground with a loud bang. Yen was also thrown out, falling into the grass more than a dozen meters away. Ji Tianxing was immediately startled and hurriedly had Qianyu land on the mountain summit. After Qianyu landed, Ji Tianxing hurriedly jumped down and ran towards Yen with quick steps. By the time he rushed to the grass, Yen had already gotten up and was patting off the dust and grass on his body. Yen, are you all right? Are you hurt? Ji Tianxing sized up Yen with a face full of concern. Chapter 309. Yen waved his hand and squeezed out a smile on his little face. Senior brother Tianxing, don't worry, I'm fine. Seeing that he was really not injured, Ji Tianxing was relieved. At this time, the golden-eyed white tiger also rushed out of the forest and ran to Yen's side and stopped. It circled Yen twice and let out a low growl, staring at the forest in front of it vigilantly. Seeing its reaction, Qianyu quickly explained to the two, "Little white means that there is danger in the forest, and he asked you not to go near it." Ji Tianxing turned his head to look at the forest in front of him and observed with keen eyes. Previously, Qianyu was flying in the sky with him, so he did not notice how Little White and Yen were suddenly knocked away. At this time, he stared at the forest for a while and found a clue. Something is strange. There seems to be the aura of an array. Ji Tianxing muttered to himself as he walked into the forest. Qianyu, and the golden-eyed white tiger quickly followed and looked around vigilantly. Ji Tianxing entered the forest and came to the middle of 2 towering trees and stopped. Just now, the golden-eyed white tiger and Yen were knocked away here. The space between the 2 trees was empty and there seemed to be nothing unusual. But Ji Tianxing's face became dignified. He stretched out his palms and displayed his array skills, shooting out a ray of vital essence brilliance. The dazzling golden vital essence exploded in midair but strangely disappeared. Ji Tianxing kept waving his palms, making mysterious gestures and arcs with his hands, and his face became more and more dignified. About half a quarter of an hour later, a 5-colored light wall about 5 meters wide and 3 meters high gradually appeared in front of him. There was no doubt that this was a wall formed by an array. Although this 5-colored wall was condensed by the power of an array, it was incomparably thick and shining with dazzling 5-colored brilliance, emitting a vast and mighty primordial chi fluctuation. It really is an array. And the array grade seems to be very high. Yen saw the clues, and his little face showed doubt and surprise. Ji Tianxing nodded and said solemnly, "That's right. This formation looks simple, it's just a 5-colored light wall. In fact, it's a Tianyuan level formation. Furthermore, according to the various signs, this formation was just completed not long ago, probably 2 or 3 days ago. A heavenly origin grade formation? Yen was even more shocked and asked incredulously, "This place is only 100 miles away from our sect. Who would set up a heaven origin grade formation here?" Ji Tianxing frowned and observed for a moment. Then, he said in a low voice, "Don't be anxious. Once I break this formation, I will naturally know the answer." Yen opened her small mouth in surprise, looking at Ji Tianxing in amazement. "Senior brother Tianxing, you can actually crack a heaven origin grade array formation? Not only heaven origin stage experts can." Ji Tianxing patted her head and said with a smile, "Heaven origin grade array formations are also divided into 4 grades: extreme, upper, middle, and lower. There are also great differences in difficulty. This formation is just the most ordinary lower grade heaven origin grade array formation. Even an origin core stage array master can crack it. I, your senior brother, happen to be an array master too. I'll try my best." "Senior brother Tianxing, you're so young and you're actually an array master?" Yen let out an incredulous cry, her eyes twinkling with little stars of envy and worship. Ji Tianxing just smiled and said nothing more. He began to crack the formation with all his might. His face was as calm as water. His eyes stared deeply at the 5-colored light wall. Waving his palms, he constantly injected golden true essence into the 5-colored light wall. The seemingly chaotic 5-colored light wall, like a city wall, turned into countless lines and veins of the formation in his eyes. He cracked the veins of the formation like spinning silk from a cocoon, exploring the foundation and nodes of the formation, and soon made progress. Time passed quickly, and the forest was silent. Yen focused on watching Ji Tianxing crack the formation. Qian Yu and the golden-eyed white tiger looked around, guarding the two of them. 4 hours passed quickly. Ji Tianxing continued to crack the formation and consumed a lot of true essence. He was a little tired, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. After all, this was the first time he cracked a heaven origin grade array formation with his own hands. He couldn't help but think to himself, "It's just a lower grade heaven origin grade array formation. I have to use all my strength to crack it, and it will take me more than 4 hours." The supreme grade heaven origin grade array formation in the Dragon Mountain tomb is many times more powerful than this one. It seems that only when I have the strength of the origin core stage can I give it a try. Not long after, the lower grade heaven origin grade array formation was cracked. The 5-colored light wall quickly distorted and collapsed. Countless 5-colored light fragments condensed into an oval 5-colored light door. The light gate was filled with shadows, but Ji Tianxing could see that behind the gate was a passage set up by a formation. This was a teleportation door. Ji Tianxing observed a few times and couldn't help but frown as he muttered, "Looking at the direction of that formation passage, it seems to be heading towards our sect. Strange, who would go through so much trouble to build a heaven origin grade array formation here and set up a formation passage?" He keenly sensed that there must be something strange in this. Yen also realized that something was wrong and said with a solemn expression, "Senior apprentice brother Tianxing, this matter is a little strange. Should we go in and take a look?" Ji Tianxing nodded in agreement without hesitation. The two of them stepped through the teleportation door and entered the formation passage. Qian Yu and the golden-eyed white tiger also hurriedly followed. The formation passage was formed by a 5-colored light wall. The space was a little narrow and could barely accommodate them. However, the formation passage had a very mysterious effect. The passage seemed to be only 100 steps away, but it could connect 2 places 100 miles apart. Ji Tianxing and Yen walked 100 steps in the formation passage and arrived at a teleportation door at the end of the passage. Swoosh! The two of them stepped through the teleportation door with Qian Yu and Little White and appeared in an empty cave out of thin air. This huge cave with a radius of 1,000 meters was inlaid with colorful gems on the ceiling and the surrounding rock walls. Thousands of gems were not only shining brightly but also exuding a vast and mighty primordial chi fluctuation. The primordial qi in the cave was very rich and the light was very bright. Ji Tianxing looked around and saw a huge formation in the middle of the cave. It was a circular altar with a radius of 100 meters. Countless formation patterns and symbols were engraved on the altar and inlaid with many spiritual stones and gems. Around the circular altar stood 9 huge golden dragon pillars. Each dragon pillar was terrifyingly huge, with a thickness of more than 8 meters and a height of more than 100 meters. The pillars were engraved with golden dragons bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws. Ji Tianxing could clearly sense that each dragon pillar was exuding a majestic aura as heavy as a mountain. With a single glance, he could tell that the mysterious altar and the 9 enormous dragon pillars clearly formed a marvelous formation. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of a person standing on the altar from the corner of his eye. It was a short and fat old man with white eyebrows wearing a yellow robe. He even had a goatee and a white beard. Chapter 310. Ji Tianxing instantly discerned that the old man with white eyebrows and yellow robes possessed a strength at the 7th level of the origin core stage or above. This person's strength and aura were around the same as the Sky Pillar Sect's elders. But Ji Tianxing was sure that this person was absolutely not an elder or deacon of the Sky Pillar Sect. He'd never seen this short and ugly old man that pretended to have a sage-like demeanor. Meanwhile, Yen clearly saw the situation within the cave and immediately revealed an expression of sudden understanding. Senior brother Tianxing, I know, this is the 9-Dragon Cave, our sect's secret place. Even though Yen lowered his voice, the cave was empty and silent, and the yellow-robed old man was instantly startled awake. He turned around to look at Ji Tianxing and Yen with shock, and his eyes instantly opened wide as he revealed an expression of disbelief. How is this possible? How did you two come in? This old man's heaven origin grand formation was actually broken by 2 brats that are still wet behind the ears? The yellow-robed old man was stunned, obviously unable to believe it. Ji Tianxing shouted angrily right away. Who are you? Why have you trespassed into our sect's forbidden area? The yellow-robed old man returned to his senses, and his face revealed a savage smile as he immediately transformed into a golden light that charged towards the 2 of them. Since I was discovered by you, then it's your bad luck, go die. In the blink of an eye, the yellow-robed old man charged before the 2 of them, and he swung his palms to strike out a few tens of golden palm silhouettes that fiercely charged towards the 2 of them. Ji Tianxing and Yen's faces went grim, and they immediately swung their palms and fists, striking out fist lights and palm silhouettes to block the yellow-robed old man's attack. Qian Yu and the golden-eyed white tiger immediately counterattacked as well, helping the 2 of them block the yellow-robed old man's attack. Qian Yu swung his claws to strike out a few tens of icy blue lights, and the golden-eyed white tiger opened its mouth to spit out a ball of blazing wildfire. The attacks of both sides collided with a loud bang, exploding out a dazzling 5-colored brilliance in midair and exploding out with a deafening bang. Bang, bang, bang. The loud bangs reverberated intensely within the cave and didn't stop for a long time. The yellow-robed old man's attack was blocked by everyone. This result obviously exceeded the yellow-robed old man's expectations. You actually have some skills. It seems that this old man has underestimated you. The yellow-robed old man cried out in surprise and stopped attacking. He turned around and fled without hesitation, rushing towards the teleportation gate in the corner of the cave. He obviously had a guilty conscience and didn't want to get entangled with Ji Tianxing and Yen. He didn't want to waste time and alarm the experts of the Sky-bearing sect. Chase. Don't let him escape. Ji Tianxing made a prompt decision and let out a low shout. He pulled out the black dragon sword and chased after him. He waved his sword and slashed out a dazzling divine dragon sword shadow. An earth-shattering dragon roar erupted, causing everyone's eardrums to hurt. The huge divine dragon sword shadow was about to hit the yellow-robed elder. However, the yellow-robed old man was an origin core martial artist after all, and his strength far surpassed Ji Tianxing's by 10 times. At the critical moment, The yellow-robed old man waved his sleeve and shot out a dark yellow talisman at the dragon sword shadow. That talisman instantly turned into a huge light shield, blocking between him and the divine dragon sword shadow. Bang! In the deafening sound, the divine dragon sword shadow and the huge light shield collapsed at the same time, bursting into light fragments that filled the sky. A violent and raging wind swept out in all directions, blowing up the dust on the ground. The cave became murky and muddy, making it impossible to see the surroundings clearly. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the yellow-robed old man rushed into the teleportation gate as fast as lightning and escaped from the Nine-Dragon Cave. When Ji Tianxing and Yan passed through the smoke and dust and chased to the teleportation gate collapsed with a bang and dissipated. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing couldn't help but frown. He cursed with a grim expression, "Damn old thief, he actually escaped." Yan Er's anger hadn't subsided. After a moment of silence, she comforted, "Senior brother Tianxing, you don't have to blame yourself. That yellow-robed old thief is an origin core martial artist. He just has a guilty conscience and is eager to escape. If he wants to escape, we can't stop him at all. If he really wants to fight to the death with us, we are definitely not his match." Of course, Ji Tianxing knew this, so he nodded and said, "That's true. This Nine-Dragon Cave is a secret place of our sect. That yellow-robed old thief's whereabouts are mysterious. He is obviously spying on our sect's secrets. This matter is of great importance. Let's report to Master as soon as possible." Yan naturally nodded in agreement and had no objections. The two searched for a while in the Nine-Dragon Cave before finding a passage protected by a formation. Ji Tianxing took out the Sky Pillar token and placed it on the stone door at the entrance of the passage, successfully opening the stone door. After a quarter of an hour, he and Yan left the Nine-Dragon Cave through the passage. After walking out of the cave, he discovered that outside the cave was the peak of the Cloud Sky Peak. The Cloud Sky Peak was located in the middle of the 9 peaks of the Sky Pillar sect and was the core of the 9 peaks. This peak was behind the Scarlet Sky Peak and was the residence of several elders and deacons. Ji Tianxing and Yan went down the Cloud Sky Peak and hurried to the Sky Pillar Hall of the Scarlet Sky Peak to ask for an audience with Sect Master Chu Tianxing. The two waited in the Sky Pillar Hall for a while before Chu Tianxing quickly walked into the hall. "Greetings, Sect Master." Ji Tianxing and Yan bowed at the same time. Chu Tianxing hurriedly walked in front of the two and raised his hand, indicating for them to rise. He revealed a gratified smile and looked up and down at Yan. He nodded in satisfaction and said, "Yan, your wildfire has finally been resolved? That's great." Yan was also full of joy and hurriedly explained, "Master, it was senior brother Tianxing who helped me get rid of the wildfire." He briefly recounted the matter of getting rid of the wildfire. After Chu Tianxing finished listening, his eyes shone brightly as he stared at Ji Tianxing and said solemnly, "Good. Very good. Tianxing, you are indeed a good disciple of Master. Not only is your talent outstanding, but you are also quick-witted and loyal, helping your fellow disciples with all your might." What Chu Tianxing said was from the bottom of his heart. In recent months, he had witnessed Ji Tianxing's rapid rise and growth. Seeing Ji Tianxing's courage and responsibility, his heart was only gratified and pleasantly surprised. Ji Tianxing said a few words of modesty before he got down to business. He cupped his hands and reported, "Master, when junior brother Yenner and I returned to the sect just now, we were in a mountain 100 miles away." He reported the Tianyuan array, the transmission door and the yellow-robed old man in detail to Chu Tianxing. The smile on Chu Tianxing's face suddenly disappeared, and his eyes became solemn and gloomy. "Someone can sneak into the Nine Dragons Cave? Damn it. I will immediately send someone to investigate the situation and strengthen the defense." Then he called the black-robed guard and gave a few orders. After the black-robed guard left, Chu Tianxing calmly said to Yan, "Yan, you have just recovered from a serious illness and have just returned to the sect. Go back to your residence and rest first." Yan was very smart. Of course, he knew that Master had something important to discuss with senior brother Tianxing, so he obediently took his leave. After Yenner left, Chu Tianxing's face was solemn and he said in a low voice, "Tianxing, there are some things that Master should tell you." Chapter 311. In the northeast of the Sky Pillar sect, there was a nameless mountain peak about 150 kilometers away. The mountain peak was thousands of meters high and was covered with lush forests. This place was located at the border between the Sky Pillar sect and the Tianjin sect, and was only 150 kilometers away from Dragon Mountain. Sush! A golden figure suddenly appeared on the originally quiet mountain peak and rushed into the forest as fast as lightning. The golden figure was none other than the yellow-robed, pot-bellied old man with white eyebrows. He passed through the forest as fast as a gust of wind and entered a cave. The entrance of the cave was protected by an array, and several black-robed deacons were guarding the passage inside the cave. Seeing the yellow-robed old man enter the cave, the black-robed deacons bowed and respectfully said, "Greetings, Guest Elder Huangfu." Guest Elder Huangfu ignored the deacons and quickly passed through the passage and entered a huge cave. The man-made cave had a radius of 100 meters and was very spacious. The surrounding rock walls were inlaid with gems and hundreds of stone lamps, illuminating the entire cave. Several stone rooms were carved into the rock wall on the north side of the cave, and the stone doors were tightly shut. Two black-robed deacons stood on both sides of each stone door as guards, standing motionless like statues. Guest Elder Huangfu opened the stone door in the middle and quickly entered the stone room. In the spacious and bright stone room, a middle-aged man in a blue robe was sitting on a stone bench. His body was as thin as a bamboo pole, and his aura was as sharp as a sword. A scroll was placed on the stone table in front of him, and he was reading it attentively. Hearing footsteps at the door, the middle-aged man looked up and immediately smiled. "Guest Elder Huangfu, you're finally back." Guest Elder Huangfu walked in front of him and respectfully cupped his hands. "Greetings, Sect Master." Without a doubt, this blue-robed middle-aged man was the Tianjin sect's Sect Master. He waved his hand, indicating that Guest Elder Huangfu could dispense with the formalities, and asked expectantly, "Guest Elder Huangfu, did your trip go smoothly? Did you enter the Nine Dragons Cave?" Guest Elder Huangfu revealed a complacent smile and confidently said, "Fortunately, I didn't fail you. This subordinate successfully sneaked into the Nine Dragons Cave and saw the 9 dragon pillars and the array diagram." "Really? That's great." The Tianjin sect master's eyes lit up, and he was pleasantly surprised. "Guest Elder Huangfu, quickly tell me when we can take action to destroy the Sky Pillar sect's 9 dragon spirit vein." Guest Chamberlain Huangfu frowned. After pondering for a moment, he shook his head and said, "Sect Master, the 9 dragon pillars and the Great Formation are both very mysterious and powerful existences. Your subordinate has only seen the 9 dragon veins dragon pillars and the formation diagram. I haven't had the chance to study them in detail, let alone see through the mysteries of the 9 dragon veins. Furthermore, with our current strength, it's simply impossible to destroy the 9 dragon spiritual pulse. This matter needs to be considered at length." The smile on the Tianjin sect master's face disappeared. He could only nod and say, "Well, let's study it carefully. The Sky Pillar sect has been passed down for 1,000 years. Its foundation is unimaginably powerful. How can we destroy it in just 2 or 3 years?" Seeing that the Tianjin sect master was in low spirits, Guest Huangfu hurriedly changed the topic. "That's right, sect master. This time, when your subordinate sneaked into the 9 dragon cave to observe the Great Formation, I encountered an interesting matter. When this subordinate was observing the formation in the 9 dragon cave, a teenage boy and a 10-year-old child broke through this subordinate's heavenly origin formation and entered the 9 dragon cave. Those 2 brats, who are still wet behind the ears, actually have strength comparable to the origin core stage." The Tianjin sect master suddenly frowned and said in a cold tone, "To have such strength at such a young age, those 2 brats must be the elite geniuses of the Sky Pillar sect, right?" "They should be." Guest Elder Huangfu nodded and said with a face full of regret, "Unfortunately, those 2 brats had spirit beasts as pets." Your subordinate couldn't do anything to them for a while. Your subordinate didn't dare to delay for fear of being discovered by the powerhouses of the Sky Pillar sect, so I promptly withdrew from the Nine Dragon Cave. Otherwise, your subordinate would have killed those two brats. The Tianjin sect master was silent and didn't respond. He didn't care much about this matter. His mind was full of thoughts about the Nine Dragon Spirit Vein. He only wanted to destroy the Sky Pillar sect's Spirit Vein formation as soon as possible. At this moment, the stone room's door opened again. A tall and sturdy old man in a white robe, with white hair and a beard, quickly walked in, holding a horsetail whisk with a golden handle and silver thread. The white-robed old man had the demeanor of an enlightened expert. He revealed an unfathomable smile and calmly said, "Sect Master, guest Elder Huangfu has already snuck into the Nine Dragon Cave to investigate. Now, can you believe that the Spirit Vein map I gave you is real?" Guest Elder Huangfu's expression changed slightly when he saw the white-robed old man arrive, and he hurriedly cupped his hands in greeting. "Greetings, Daoist Master Heavenly Secret." The Tianjin sect master laughed heartily and explained, Daoist Master must be joking. Since the day you gave me the Spirit Vein map, this seat has believed you without a doubt. When have I ever doubted you?" Daoist Master Heavenly Secret only smiled and didn't expose him. He solemnly said, "Sect Master, regarding the matter of destroying the Nine Dragon Spirit Vein, the time isn't ripe yet. We still need to consider it at length." "The time isn't ripe yet?" The Tianjin sect master raised his eyebrows and asked with a grave expression, "May I ask Daoist Master, when is the best time?" Daoist Master Heavenly Secret pretended to pinch his fingers and raise his head to look at the sky, making a gesture of deducing the heavenly cycle and surveying the mysteries of heaven. The Tianjin sect master and guest Elder Huangfu both secretly curled their lips and wanted to roll their eyes, but on the surface, their faces were full of expectation. A moment later, Daoist Master Heavenly Secret revealed a confident smile and leisurely said, "Sect Master, this seat has just deduced the heavenly cycle and peeked into the mysteries of heaven. When the Sky Pillar sect breaks the protective formation of the Dragon Mountain tomb, it will be the best time for us to destroy the Nine Dragon Spirit Vein and destroy the Sky Pillar sect in one fell swoop." Hearing this, the Tianjin sect master and guest Elder Huangfu both frowned, somewhat doubtful and in disbelief. Not long after Daoist Master Heavenly Secret joined the Tianjin sect, the Tianjin sect master told him about the Dragon Mountain tomb. Hearing Daoist Master Heavenly Secret mention the Dragon Mountain tomb, the Tianjin sect master wasn't surprised. His expression was grave as he worriedly asked, "The protective formation of the Dragon Mountain tomb is a top-notch heaven essence formation. The Sky Pillar sect has already discovered the tomb for 2 months, but they still haven't made any moves. According to this seat's estimates, with the Sky Pillar sect's strength and ability, they won't be able to break that formation in a short period of time, right? In that case, won't we have to wait for a long time, or even many years?" Daoist Master Heavenly Secret flung the horsetail whisk in his hand and revealed an unfathomable smile. "Sect Master, you're underestimating the Sky Pillar sect too much. You must believe in this seat. It absolutely won't take that long." Chapter 312. In a dark secret room on the towering sky peak. This secret room was the place where Chu Tianxing usually cultivated. Not only were there important secrets hidden here, but the layout of the room was also very majestic. The ground was carved with mountains and rivers, and the ceiling was carved with the sun, moon, and stars, forming a large array that encompassed heaven and earth. Chu Tianxing sat on a large jade chair, looking at Ji Tianxing with a serious expression. "Tianxing, since you've entered the Nine Dragon Cave, you should have seen the array platform and the 9 dragon pillars, right?" Ji Tianxing nodded and said with a serious expression, "Master, if I'm not wrong, the array platform and the 9 dragon pillars should be related to our sect's protective array, right?" "That's right." Chu Tianxing nodded slightly and said in a serious tone, 8,000 years ago, our sect's founder moved the 9 mountains here to form the 9-dragon spiritual pulse array to suppress the unparalleled demon and founded the towering sky sect. The 9-dragon spiritual pulse is the most important foundation of our sect. Not only does it suppress the unparalleled demon, but it also carries the fate and lifeline of our sect for 1,000 years. The array platform and the 9-dragon pillars in the 9-dragon cave are auxiliary arrays of the 9-dragon spiritual pulse. The 9-dragon pillars represent the 9 mountains of our sect. Once the 9-dragon pillars and the array platform are destroyed, the 9-dragon spiritual pulse will be damaged. The consequences will be unimaginable. Ji Tianxing had long expected the situation to be serious, but he didn't expect it to be this serious. He frowned and asked with some concern, "Master, what do you plan to do?" Chu Tianxing raised his eyebrows and said in a low voice, "The 9-dragon cave is very important. It's related to the lifeline of our sect. Of course, I will send experts to guard it." Ji Tianxing was silent for a moment, then asked, "Master, don't you want to investigate who is so bold as to sneak into our sect to spy on our secrets?" Chu Tianxing shook his head, his eyes flashing with a cold light. He said in a cold voice, "There's no need to investigate. I've already guessed the other party's identity. In the entire Star Ancient realm, besides that sect, who would dare to provoke our sect so unscrupulously?" Hearing this, Ji Tianxing immediately understood Chu Tianxing's meaning and guessed the other party's identity. Chu Tianxing said with a serious expression, "Tianxing, you've only been in the sect for a few months. Although it's glorious and dazzling, it's also caused you a lot of trouble. Have you ever wondered why the sect thinks so highly of you?" Ji Tianxing frowned as a thought flashed through his mind. Could there be another reason? What secret does Master want to tell me? Because I can reactivate the 9-dragon demon trapping array. Ji Tianxing frowned, trying to figure out the meaning of this word. Everyone thought that Ji Ling was the person the sky-bearing sect was looking for. After Ji Ling's death, the truth was revealed. It turned out that he was the person the sky-bearing sect was looking for. He had always thought that the sky-bearing sect was looking for him because of his profound sword bloodline. But Chu Tianxing told him that he was the person who defied fate. What did that mean? "Follow Master." Chu Tianxing didn't immediately explain. He turned and walked to the center of the room, arriving in front of a stone table. There was an ancient black tortoise shell on the stone table. It emitted an ancient and mysterious aura. Chu Tianxing pressed his palm on the tortoise shell and released a majestic true origin. He used a secret technique of the profound Tao. The tortoise shell immediately lit up with a dazzling brilliance. Dense dots of light and silver lines appeared and moved slightly. Ji Tianxing stood beside the stone table and carefully observed the changes on the tortoise shell. He could see that the dense dots of light represented the stars in the sky and the silver lines were the veins of the formation. Soon, the dots of light and silver lines on the tortoise shell stopped moving. Chu Tianxing pointed at the most dazzling star in the sky and said to Ji Tianxing with a solemn expression, "Tianxing, this treasure is one of the sect's most important treasures, the fated star map. The constellation shown in the fated star map foretells your fate. And the most dazzling star in the sky is your fated star. Our sect's greatest worry and enemy is the unparalleled demon suppressed under Scarlet Firmament Peak. And you are that unparalleled demon's nemesis." Ji Tianxing stared at the fated star map in a daze. He didn't know what to say for a while. The unparalleled demon was a giant of the demonic Tao 1,000 years ago. He was a super expert that could destroy the entire heavenly stellar region. The sky-bearing sect that had existed for 1,000 years feared the unparalleled demon like a tiger and deeply feared him. He was a weakling in the profound understanding realm. Compared to the unparalleled demon, the difference was like heaven and earth. But Chu Tianxing showed him the fated star map and told him that he was the unparalleled demon's nemesis. How could he believe this? How could he not be shocked? The secret room quieted down. Both master and disciple were silent. After a long time, Ji Tianxing finally calmed down. He raised his head and looked at Chu Tianxing. His voice was solemn as he asked, "Master, what do you want me to do?" Chu Tianxing shook his head and said in a heavy tone, "You don't need to do anything. Just wait and see." However, waiting and seeing doesn't mean letting nature take its course. You must understand the mission and responsibility on your shoulders. You can't relax for even a moment. You must cultivate with all your strength and strive to become stronger. Ji Tianxing knew that with his current strength, he didn't have the qualifications to deal with the unparalleled demon. Even if he was anxious, it would be useless. The only thing he could do was to continuously increase his strength and strive to become stronger. "Master, don't worry. I will cultivate diligently and strive to increase my strength." Chu Tianxing nodded with a worried expression. He said in a heavy tone, "Now, someone has infiltrated the Nine-Dragon Cave to investigate the secrets of the Nine-Dragon spiritual pulse. They have already begun to act. I can't help but worry. If they destroy the Nine-Dragon spiritual pulse, not only will the foundation of our sect collapse, but even the unparalleled demon under the Red Cloud Peak will break the seal. At that time, a great disaster will befall us. The ancient star realm and the entire heavenly stellar region will be plunged into misery and suffering. Tianxing, if that day really comes, I will need you to step forward and save our sect and the ancient star realm from suffering. Save the people of the heavenly stellar region. Of course, the sect and I will do our best to guard against the enemy. We will not let that day come too early." Chapter 313. Chu Tianxing then told Ji Tianxing some of the sect's secrets. This gave Ji Tianxing a deeper understanding of the Sky Pillar sect's situation. He understood that his status had only been recognized by everyone after the Heavenless tournament. Before this, he only had the title of the sect master's disciple and was not regarded as a true elite disciple. But it was different now. He had won 3 matches in a row in the Heavenless tournament and bravely took second place on the Heaven list, proving his strength to everyone. He had become a true core disciple and had the same status as Yun Yao. Only then was he qualified to know these secrets. At the same time, Ji Tianxing also deeply understood a principle. The greater the power, the heavier the responsibility. When he was regarded highly by the sect master and the Sky Pillar sect and stood side by side with Yun Yao, he had to bear the corresponding responsibility. After an hour, Ji Tianxing bid farewell to Chu Tianxing and left the secret room. When he left the Sky Pillar Hall and returned to Tianxing Courtyard, it was a scorching afternoon. The door to Tianxing Courtyard was wide open, and the 2 servant disciples were nowhere to be seen. Maid Xiao Shuang was standing at the door of the living room with an anxious expression, looking out from time to time. Seeing that Ji Tianxing had returned, Maid Xiao Shuang revealed a relieved expression and quickly came forward to report the news. "Senior brother Ji, you're finally back." Ji Tianxing glanced at her and asked, "What happened?" Xiao Shuang quickly replied, "Senior brother Ji, there's a senior brother called Su Qin who said that he has an urgent matter to discuss with you. He's been waiting in the living room for an hour. You should quickly go and take a look." Su Qin. Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment before remembering that this person was a disciple of the Spirit Medicine Hall. Back then, he had persuaded Ji Ku to become a disciple of the Spirit Medicine Hall's elder. Thinking of this, he could not help but have a thought. What urgent matter could he have to look for me for? Could it be related to Ku? When he walked into the living room, he saw Su Qin in a white robe pacing back and forth in the living room. He looked restless and anxious. Suddenly, he saw Ji Tianxing enter the living room. Su Qin hurriedly walked up to him and cupped his hands in greeting. "Greetings, Senior Martial Brother Ji." Ji Tianxing cupped his hands in return and said, "Junior Martial Brother Su, don't be impatient. If you have anything to say, please sit down and talk." Su Qin shook his head and said with a solemn expression, "Senior Brother Ji, this is an urgent matter. I won't be sitting. I came to Tianxing Courtyard to disturb you because I have an urgent matter. Junior Sister Ji Ko, something happened to her." Ji Tianxing's body trembled and his eyes were filled with worry. He hurriedly asked, "What's wrong with Ku?" "What happened?" Su Qin looked outside the courtyard and said in a low voice, "Senior Martial Brother Ji, Come with me to the spirit medicine hall to see her. We'll talk on the way. Ji Tianxing was worried about Ji Ke's safety and naturally nodded in agreement. He followed Su Qin out of Tianxing courtyard and hurried to the spirit medicine hall. On the way, Su Qin explained to him, ever since junior sister Ji Ke entered the spirit medicine hall, she has been safe and sound for the past 2 months. She is naturally intelligent, lively, and cute. Her progress in the art of alchemy is very fast. She is also doted on by her fellow apprentices. But for some reason, since last night, junior sister Ji Ke has been in a daze and looked like she was in pain. At noon today, when she was refining medicine in the alchemy room, she fainted on the spot. After the incident, the medicine elder hurried over to check on the situation and found that junior sister Ji Ke's condition was very bad. Ji Tianxing's expression became grave and he asked worriedly, "Why did Ke faint? Didn't the medicine elder find out the reason?" Su Qin was silent for a moment before he shook his head and said, "Perhaps the medicine elder knows the reason, but he didn't tell us. We can't find any clues." Junior sister Ji Ke's consciousness has been muddled and her true essence is in chaos. She could die at any time. Originally, the medicine elder told us not to spread this matter and that he would think of a way to deal with it and save junior sister Ji Ke. But junior sister Ji Ke kept calling your name even when she was unconscious. I saw that junior sister Ji Ke was still thinking about senior brother Ji even when she was unconscious. I couldn't bear it and came to Tianxing courtyard to find you. After listening to Su Qin's explanation, Ji Tianxing said in a solemn tone, "Junior brother Su, thank you for telling me this." "It's my duty," Su Qin replied. Not long after, the two of them arrived at the spirit medicine hall. Su Qin led Ji Tianxing through several buildings and entered a palace in the depths of the spirit medicine hall. They came to the door of a secret room. 2 spirit medicine hall deacons were guarding the door of the secret room. Seeing Su Qin and Ji Tianxing arrive, the 2 black-robed deacons hurriedly stopped them and said in a dignified voice, "This is a restricted area of the spirit medicine hall. Leave quickly and don't disturb us." Su Qin cupped his hands and bowed, then retreated to the side and stood still. Ji Tianxing took out the atlas badge and explained, "I'm Ji Tianxing, Ji Ke's elder brother. Something happened to her and I have to go in and visit her." The 2 black-robed deacons let them go and opened the door of the secret room. Ji Tianxing stepped through the door of the secret room and saw that there were many large arrays set up in this spacious secret room with a radius of 100 meters. There were also several pill furnaces and medicine cabinets for storing medicinal herbs. He could see that this secret room should be the place where the medicine elder usually cultivated and refined pills. On a platform in the middle of the secret chamber, there was a millstone-sized, dark green millennium-old spiritual jade. Ji Ke, dressed in a green robe, was lying on the 1,000-year-old spirit jade in a coma. Her face was sometimes as pale as snow and sometimes as pale as gold paper. Her body was constantly emitting wisps of white smoke, overflowing with a violent and domineering power. The spirit jade had absorbed the power of several large arrays and was emitting a dense green light. It was as if a layer of thick fog was shrouding her, constantly injecting her with a majestic aura of life. Beside the 1,000-year-old spirit jade, the amiable-looking medicine elder was waving his hand with a worried expression, releasing true essence brilliance to control 2 arrays. Ji Tianxing could tell that the medicine elder was controlling the arrays with the help of the 1,000-year-old spirit jade's power, seemingly suppressing the violent power overflowing from Ji Ke's body. Seeing this scene, he did not disturb the medicine elder. He walked to the side of the array and silently sized up Ji Ke, observing her situation. After 7 minutes, the wisps of white smoke overflowing from Ji Ke's body were finally suppressed. Only then did the medicine elder stop. He turned his head to look at Ji Tianxing and asked with a frown, "Ji Tianxing? Why are you here?" Ji Tianxing cupped his hands in greeting and explained, "Medicine elder, I heard from junior brother Su Qin that something happened to Ke, so I came to visit." "Medicine elder, please tell me, why did Ke suddenly fall into a coma? How is her condition?" The medicine elder's expression became more and more solemn as he said in a heavy tone, "Since you are so concerned about Ji Ke, I will not hide it from you. Chapter 3:14. Crimson Star Bloodline? Hearing these words, Ji Tianxing immediately raised his eyebrows, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. He was now an array master and had studied the massive heavenly cycle stellar array, so he knew many secrets that only the strong knew. The Crimson Star referred to the Crimson Pole Star, one of the 36 Big Dipper stars and ranked third. The Crimson Star bloodline was obviously related to the Big Dipper star. Even if Ji Tianxing had never heard of this bloodline, he could guess that it must be an extremely rare bloodline. In the Tianxian continent, only martial artists with outstanding talent could awaken the bloodline. Martial artists with special bloodlines were more outstanding than ordinary martial artists, and their martial arts achievements were also higher. Of course, bloodlines were also divided into strong and weak ones. The most common bloodline was the origin grade bloodline, the more advanced ones were the black grade bloodline, and the best ones were the heavenly grade bloodline. Generally speaking, martial artists with the black grade bloodline were extremely rare in the secular kingdoms. Just like in the past, Ji Tianxing had the black grade bloodline and could become the top martial artist in the Royal Azure Kingdom. As for the heavenly grade bloodline, it was almost impossible for it to appear in the secular kingdoms. Only those major forces and sects that were above the kingdoms could give birth to such outstanding bloodlines. For example, Yun Yao's celestial spirit's sacred constitution was one of the heavenly grade bloodlines. Ji Tianxing frowned and asked doubtfully, "Medicine Elder, what is the grade of the Crimson Star bloodline? Is it the heavenly grade bloodline?" The Medicine Elder nodded and said with a serious expression, "Yes." Ji Tianxing was even more puzzled and asked, "Medicine Elder, when a martial artist awakens the bloodline, their talent will improve by leaps and bounds and their strength will increase exponentially. Ku awakened the heavenly grade bloodline. How did this happen? Why is she in a coma and in critical condition?" The Medicine Elder looked at him deeply and sighed before explaining, "This matter is very complicated and it's a long story. There were two reasons why I took a fancy to Ji Ku and insisted on taking her as my disciple. Firstly, when this old man was roaming the Heavenly Star region in the early years, I had a friendship with the Royal Azure Dynasty's emperor. Ji Ku joining the Sky Pillar sect as a disciple was also instructed by the Royal Azure Dynasty emperor. Not long after Ji Ku joined the Sky Pillar sect, the emperor of the Royal Azure Dynasty sent me a letter asking me to take care of her and help her awaken the mysterious bloodline in her body. Secondly, the bloodline hidden within Ji Ku's body is extremely mysterious. Before this, neither the Royal Azure Dynasty Emperor nor I could tell what kind of bloodline she possesses. Because of this, I decided to take her as my disciple and help her awaken her mysterious bloodline." Ji Tianxing nodded. Only then did he come to a realization. He had always believed that there was no such thing as love or hatred for no reason in this world. If it were not for the friendship between the Royal Azure Dynasty Emperor and the Medicine Elder, and the mysterious bloodline in Ji Ku's body, why would the Medicine Elder accept her as his disciple after just a few meetings? At this moment, the Medicine Elder continued, "Ever since Ji Ku became my disciple, I've been thinking of ways to help her awaken her bloodline for the past 2 months. Just the day before yesterday, I finally succeeded in helping Ji Ku awaken her mysterious bloodline. When I found out that the bloodline she awakened was the top of the heavenly red star bloodline, I was so excited and relieved. However, after Ji Ku awakened the red star bloodline, not only did her strength not skyrocket, she was also constantly in danger. The inner yuan in her body was in a mess and her power went berserk. She almost lost her life because of it. After a careful examination, I found out that there was an extremely mysterious and domineering power sealed within her body. That was not the inner yuan of a human but the power of a foreign race. It was this mysterious power that almost cost her her life." When he heard this, Ji Tianxing's face was filled with astonishment and he quickly asked, "The power of a foreign race? Ku is clearly a human, how could there be the power of a foreign race in her body?" The Medicine Elder stroked his beard and said meaningfully, "The power of a foreign race is sealed within her soul. It should have been there since birth and it could very well be related to her background." Ji Tianxing, since you're Ji Ke's elder brother and are close childhood friends with her, you should know something about her background, right? Ji Tianxing thought for a moment and nodded. He had met Ji Ke when he was 8 years old and they became best friends. He knew that Ji Ke only had her imperial father since she was young and did not have a mother. She was the most lonely princess in the palace. No one knew who Ji Ke's birth mother was, and it was strictly forbidden in the palace to talk about Ji Ke's background or they would be severely punished. The heirs of the imperial family distanced themselves from her and the concubines in the harem bullied her. Although the emperor of the royal Azure dynasty doted on her, he was busy with political affairs and had no time to accompany her. It was because of this that Ji Ke relied on him and trusted him so much and had a deep relationship with him. When he thought of this, Ji Tianxing said in a serious tone, "Medicine Elder, there is indeed something strange about Ke's background. I'm afraid only the emperor of the royal Azure dynasty knows the truth about her background. However, now is not the time to delve into this matter. How should we deal with the power of a foreign race in Ke's body? Do you have any good ideas?" The medicine elder frowned and pondered for a moment before saying in a low voice, "The power of a foreign race is very mysterious and violent. It's different from the energy of our human race. I can't do anything about it. Moreover, the power is sealed within Ji Ke's soul and no one can touch it. She can only rely on herself to refine the power. I've thought about it for a long time and I've come up with an excellent idea." Ji Tianxing's eyes lit up and he asked expectantly, "What is it?" The medicine elder said in a serious tone, "Ji Ke's current strength is too weak. She can't refine the power of a foreign race sealed within her soul. If she wants to increase her strength quickly, she can only rely on her bloodline talent. The heavenly red star bloodline that she awakened corresponds to the red star of the 36 Big Dipper stars. If she sleeps in the jade soul coffin and places it at the top of the 7 stars pagoda, she can absorb the power of the Big Dipper stars and quickly increase the power of her red star bloodline. When her red star bloodline is strong enough, she can borrow the power of the Big Dipper stars to refine the power of the foreign race sealed within her soul. When that time comes, not only will she be able to turn danger into safety, she will also be able to master the mysterious and powerful power of a foreign race. Her strength will definitely increase exponentially." Ji Tianxing frowned in confusion. "Jade Soul Coffin? 7 Stars Pagoda? Medicine Elder, where are these 2 treasures? How can I get them?" The medicine elder stroked his beard and said calmly, "The Jade Soul Coffin is a treasure of our sect. It has all kinds of incredible effects. This item is in the hands of the sect master. You can ask the sect master to lend it to you. As for the 7 Stars Pagoda, it is a wonderful treasure land in the ancient star realm. It is located 500 miles south of the Star Terrace." Chapter 315. Seeing that Ji Tianxing didn't know much about the 7 Stars Pagoda, the medicine elder explained it to him in detail. The 7 Stars Pagoda was actually a secret land. After the 8 major sects found this secret land, they all wanted to take it for themselves, so that their disciples could gain experience and improve their strength. After many disputes and negotiations, the 8 major sects reached an agreement to jointly set up a super array to protect the secret land and named it the 7 Stars Pagoda. The 7 Stars Pagoda had 7 floors. From the 1st floor to the 6th floor, there were various dangers and tests in each floor. Only by passing the tests could one enter the higher floor. The 7th floor was an excellent holy land for cultivation, with all kinds of incredible effects. The 8 major sects had set a rule that the 7 Stars Pagoda would only open once a year. Each sect had a token, which was equivalent to the key to enter the 7 Stars Pagoda. It could only be used by one disciple. The disciples of each sect who entered the 7 Stars Pagoda had to rely on their own ability to pass the levels. Whoever could reach the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda would get great benefits. Hearing this, Ji Tianxing opened his mouth and asked, "Medicine Elder, may I ask where our sect's token is?" The Medicine Elder quickly replied, "Naturally, it's in Yun Yao's hands. In the past few years, Every time the 7 Stars Pagoda opened, she would represent our sect to pass the levels. None of the disciples of other sects could reach the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda. Only our sect's Yun Yao could do it. In the past, our sect also sent Chen Su and Tang Ilua, but they both failed on the 5th floor and failed to reach the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda. Since then, our sect has kept the token to enter the 7 Stars Pagoda with Yun Yao. She knows the situation of the 7 Stars Pagoda better. If you want to know more, you can go to her. Ji Tianxing nodded to show that he understood and bowed to the medicine elder to thank him. Then, the medicine elder reminded him, there are still 8 days before the 7 Stars Pagoda opens. Ji Ku's condition is still unstable, so I have to help her recuperate for a few days. If you get the Jade Soul Coffin and the key to enter the 7 Stars Pagoda, wait patiently for a few days and prepare to enter the 7 Stars Pagoda in advance. After this old man has helped Ji Ku recuperate, I'll send someone to inform you. At that time, I'll put her into the Jade Soul Coffin. Thank you very much, Medicine Elder. Ji Tianxing thanked him and then left. After leaving the Spirit Medicine Hall, he went straight to the White Cloud Hall on the Red Cloud Peak. Baiyun Hall was Yun Yao's residence. When he rushed to the White Cloud Hall, Yun Yao was reading ancient books in the study. Hearing his footsteps, Yun Yao put down the ancient book in her hand, turned to look at him, and greeted, Junior Brother Tianxing, are you looking for me? Ji Tianxing nodded and said, Eldest senior sister, I came to find you to ask about the 7 Stars Pagoda. 7 Stars Pagoda? Yun Yao frowned and thought for a moment. Then, she said in surprise, the 7 Stars Pagoda will open in a few days. Do you want to challenge the 7 Stars Pagoda? Ji Tianxing thought for a moment and nodded. I want to save a good friend, so I need to borrow the power of the 7 Stars Pagoda. Yun Yao frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, although the 7 Stars Pagoda is a secret land with great opportunities, it's also very dangerous. Junior Brother Tianxing, with your current strength, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to break through. Ji Tianxing certainly understood that Yun Yao was not exaggerating. She was sincerely advising him. However, he said firmly, Eldest senior sister, in order to save a friend, I have to break through. Yun Yao frowned and looked at him with deep eyes. After hesitating for a moment, she took out a silver token from her interspatial ring and handed it to him. This is the token to enter the 7 Stars Pagoda. Every sect only has one. When the 7 Stars Pagoda opens, only one disciple from each sect can enter. The first 3 levels of the 7 Stars Pagoda are relatively simple. Most of the elite disciples of each sect can pass through them. However, the 4th to 6th levels are extremely difficult and dangerous. Almost everyone can't pass these 3 levels. Originally, I didn't plan to enter the 7 Stars Pagoda this year. I wanted to give this opportunity to Junior Brother Yen and let him go to the 7 Stars Pagoda to hone himself. Since you want to go, it's the same for me to give you the token. After that, she introduced the dangers of each level to Ji Tianxing and explained the mysteries of the 7th level. Ji Tianxing listened carefully and memorized every word she said. After Yun Yao finished speaking, he put away the token to enter the 7 Stars Pagoda and thanked Yun Yao. Breaking through the 7 Stars Pagoda and saving Ji Ku must be done by him. He did not dare to expect Yun Yao to help him save Ji Ku. After all, Yun Yao and Ji Ku were not related. Yun Yao was willing to give him the key to enter the 7 Stars Pagoda, which was already extremely benevolent and made him grateful. After leaving the White Cloud Hall, Ji Tianxing rushed to the Sky Raising Hall and asked to see his master, Chu Tianxing. Chu Tianxing was cultivating in the secret chamber. When he heard that he came to visit, he asked the black-robed guard to lead him into the secret chamber. Tianxing, why are you looking for master? Chu Tianxing sat cross-legged in the array formation in the secret chamber and asked with a calm expression. Ji Tianxing walked in front of him and stood still. He bowed and said, Greetings, Master. This disciple is here to ask Master for a favor. I have a close friend who is a disciple of the Spiritual Medicine Hall's elder. She is in danger and has a difficult problem to solve. The medicine elder told me that if I want to save her, I can only let her sleep in the jade soul coffin at the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda and use the power of the stars to save her. So, this disciple boldly wants to borrow the jade soul coffin from Master. I hope Master can help me. After listening to these words, Chu Tianxing showed a surprised look and asked, Tianxing, you want to go to the 7 Stars Pagoda? The 7th floor of the 7 Stars Pagoda is full of dangers and dangers. The slightest carelessness will cost you your life. Ji Tianxing cupped his fists and said with a firm expression, Master, this disciple must take the risk in order to save her. Chu Tianxing frowned and weighed the pros and cons for a moment before saying in a solemn tone, Since you insist on going, Master will not stop you. The 7 Stars Pagoda is very dangerous. If you go there, you can also use it to temper yourself and improve your strength. Master can lend you the jade soul coffin, but this thing is one of the most precious treasures of our sect. It is very rare and precious. You must take good care of it and place it properly. It cannot be lost. When Ji Tianxing saw him nod in agreement, he immediately said gratefully, Thank you, Master. This disciple will follow Master's orders and will not let the jade soul coffin be damaged. Chu Tianxing nodded and slowly extended his left palm. A silver brilliance appeared in his palm and a thumb-sized white jade box immediately appeared. This thumb-sized white jade box had a rectangular shape and was carved into the shape of a lifelike coffin. It was the Sky Pillar sect's most precious treasure, the jade soul coffin. If one wanted to use the jade soul coffin, they needed to use a special spell to open the formation on the jade soul coffin. Only then could it become a real coffin. After Ji Tianxing accepted the jade soul coffin, Chu Tianxing taught him a set of mysterious spells to use the jade soul coffin. Ji Tianxing listened attentively and remembered every word Chu Tianxing said. After an hour, he had successfully mastered the spell to open and use the jade soul coffin. Chu Tianxing took out 2 talismans and a fist-sized silver ball and gave them to him. Tianxing, this time you will be going to the 7 Stars Pagoda. It will be very dangerous. You may even encounter life-threatening danger. Chapter 316. The Jade Soul Coffin and the key to enter the 7 Stars Pagoda were both in his hands. What Ji Tianxing needed to do next was to wait and prepare. After returning to the Tianxing courtyard, he did not waste any time. He quickly entered the secret chamber to practice and improve his strength. When the 7 Stars Pagoda opened, he would enter the 7 Stars Pagoda. At that time, he would not only have to face all kinds of dangers and tests, but also the elite disciples of each sect. He had to improve his strength as much as possible. After entering the 7 Stars Pagoda, he was bound to pass all the tests and reach the top. In order to save Ji Ku, he had to succeed. He could not fail. Soon after, Ji Tianxing held his breath and focused his mind, entering a focused state of cultivation. Now that he had reached LV5 of the mystic comprehending realm, one of the apertures in the 5th sword vein had been refined. He used his own gold genuine essence and the power of the red flame genuine fire to refine the 2nd aperture. This process was very slow. As his strength became stronger, the speed of his strength improvement would inevitably become slower. In the Tianjian sect, on the Divine Sword Peak. In a dimly lit secret chamber full of spiritual qi, the Tianjian sect master was sitting on a big jade chair. In front of him stood a young man in a white robe with a dignified appearance. This young man was about 25 or 26 years old. He was tall and burly, handsome and dignified. He exuded confidence and arrogance. This man was the chief disciple of the Tianjian sect, Shi Wenyu. Shi Wenyu bowed to the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect and asked respectfully, Master, do you have any instructions for summoning this disciple? The Tianjian sect master nodded slightly and asked, Wenyu, the 7 Stars Pagoda will open in a few days. Are you ready? Shi Wenyu smiled confidently and quickly cupped his hands. Master, although I failed every time I entered the 7 Stars Pagoda, my swordsmanship has made a breakthrough this year. My strength has also increased by 2 levels to LV9 of the mystic comprehending realm. I am confident that I can enter the 7th level and become the second person after Yun Yao to reach the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda. Seeing how confident Shi Wenyu was, the Tianjian sect master smiled with relief. He nodded and said encouragingly, Wenyu, it's good that you're so confident. I also hope that you can win this honor and show the other sects the strength of the Tianjian sect. Shi Wenyu cupped his fists and said confidently, Disciple will do his best and not disappoint master. Very good. The Tianjian sect master nodded with satisfaction and said in a serious tone, However, I summoned you here today because I have a more important task for you. Shi Wenyu saw his solemn expression and understood the importance of this matter. He said seriously, Master, please enlighten me. The Tianjian sect master said in a low voice, At the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda, there are many heavenly treasures. One of them is called the Soul Crystal. This item is very important to us and is even related to the rise of our sect. After you enter the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda, you must obtain this treasure and bring it back. After listening to the Tianjian sect master's instructions, Shi Wenyu suddenly frowned and asked doubtfully, Master, since the soul crystal is so precious, Yun Yao will definitely snatch it from me. Moreover, she has entered the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda many times. Could it be that she has already taken the soul crystal? The Tianjian sect master sneered and said in a firm tone, Of course not. Yun Yao definitely doesn't have the guts to take the soul crystal. The soul crystal is located in the 7 Stars Array. Not only is it hidden very well, but it is also the core of the 7 Stars Array. Once you take the soul crystal, the 7 Stars Array will collapse, and the 7 Stars Pagoda will be implicated and even collapse. Shi Wenyu's face was full of surprise. He didn't expect the Tianjian sect master to give him such a shocking task. The Tianjian sect master continued, Wenyu, you don't have to worry about the consequences of doing this. Just follow my orders. After you take the soul crystal and the 7 Stars Pagoda collapses and is destroyed, you can try to push the blame to Yun Yao. In the past few years, except for Yun Yao, no one has been able to reach the 7th floor. If you frame her with this matter, all the major sects will believe it without a doubt. Shi Wenyu nodded solemnly and cupped his fists. I understand. I will follow master's orders. Well, very good. You may leave. The Tianjian sect master nodded with satisfaction. Shi Wenyu bowed and left the secret chamber. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. Ji Tianxing had been cultivating in seclusion in the secret chamber for 7 days. Finally, he had refined 2 more acupoints and his strength had improved a lot. In the evening, he ended his cultivation and walked out of the secret chamber. Not long after he returned to his room, his maid, Xiao Shuang, came to report the news. Senior brother Ji, the senior brother named Su Qin came to visit again at noon today. He asked Xiao Shuang to tell you that everything is ready. As soon as Ji Tianxing heard this, he understood that the medicine elder was definitely prepared. He quickly left the Tianxing courtyard and rushed to the spiritual herbal hall to find the medicine elder. When he met the medicine elder, he was still in the secret chamber. Ji Ku was still lying unconscious on the Millennium Spirit Jade. Her body was surrounded by a pale blue brilliance, and her face was calm and serene. Even though she was unconscious and her consciousness was fuzzy, she was still murmuring unconsciously. Every once in a while, she would call out, Brother Tianxing. Seeing her like this, Ji Tianxing was full of tenderness and worry. He secretly made up his mind to help her solve the disaster in front of her. The medicine elder's face was full of fatigue, but there was a touch of relief in his eyes. Tianxing, this old man has helped Ji Ku recuperate her body and temporarily suppress the alien powers sealed in her soul. Later, we will put Ji Ku into the Jade Soul Coffin. Tomorrow morning, you can set off for the 7 Stars Pagoda. Thank you, medicine elder. I have troubled you. Ji Tianxing thanked him sincerely. The medicine elder waved his hand and said with a bitter smile, Why are you thanking this old man? This old man is Ji Ku's master. This is what I should do. Ji Tianxing did not say anything more. He circulated his true essence and cast a special spell to bring out the Jade Soul Coffin. Swoosh! A light flashed in his palm, and a jade box the size of a thumb appeared. He cast a spell to make the jade box bigger. Soon, it became a 5-meter long and 3-meter wide spirit jade coffin. The carvings on the coffin were vivid and lifelike. The entire coffin exuded a vast and majestic spirit chi. Obviously, its effects were extraordinary. Under the medicine elder's guidance, Ji Tianxing slowly lifted Ji Ku up. His movements were gentle as he carefully placed her into the jade soul coffin. Ji Ku was sleeping in the jade soul coffin. The coffin constantly released an invisible spirit chi that lingered around her body, protecting her closely. After that, Ji Tianxing cast a special spell to shrink the huge coffin into a jade box the size of a thumb and put it back into his spatial ring. Chapter 317. The next morning, Ji Tianxing rode on Qianyu and left the Sky Pillar sect. Facing the rising sun, Qianyu flew towards the center of the Star Ancient Realm. It flew for half a day and arrived at the bottom of the 7 Stars Pagoda after 12 hours. It was already evening and night was about to fall. Qianyu landed on a towering mountain peak. In the center of the mountain peak stood a towering pagoda that was as huge as a mountain peak. It was an octagonal pagoda that was bronze in color. Its bottom was connected to the mountain peak and its top was connected to the sky. It exuded an incomparably majestic aura. The bronze pagoda was divided into 7 floors, each of which was more than 300 meters tall. The top 2 floors were shrouded in clouds and mist, making it difficult to see clearly. Ji Tianxing looked up for a moment and saw the pagoda's appearance. The pagoda had 8 corners that were octagonal in shape. It looked magnificent, vast, and imposing. There was a huge copper lamp at each corner, and the lamps were engraved with lifelike divine dragons and firebirds. The body of the pagoda was ancient and rough, with many mysterious patterns and patterns carved on it. There were also some special symbols. On the first floor of the pagoda, there was a black door that was 100 meters tall. This door was tightly shut and flickered with a faint 5-colored brilliance. It was obviously the power of a formation. In addition, there was a narrow ladder on the side of the pagoda that led directly to the 4th floor. There was also a door on the 4th floor of the pagoda that was the same size as the door on the 1st floor. It was simple and unadorned. These 2 doors were the only entrances to the pagoda. This is the legendary 7 Stars Pagoda? Ji Tianxing looked at it for a moment and could not help but whisper. This 7 Stars Pagoda was not man-made and was not controlled by the 8 great sections. Legend had it that this mysterious and unadorned 7 Stars Pagoda was not an ordinary thing, but a divine object that fell from the sky. In the distant ancient times, this 7 Stars Pagoda fell from the sky like a meteor and fell into the Star Ancient Realm. After the pagoda landed, it smashed into the depths of the earth and hid in the mountains. No one knew about it. After thousands of years of slow recovery and growth, the pagoda gradually recovered its power and emerged from the depths of the earth. About 10 years ago, this 7 Stars Pagoda appeared from the top of the mountain, as if it had appeared out of thin air overnight. Later on, several sects experts accidentally discovered the 7 Stars Pagoda. When they entered the 7-Star Pagoda with doubts, they found that there was another world inside the pagoda. Furthermore, the 7 floors of the pagoda represented the 7 worlds. They did not disturb each other but were connected to each other. Every level contained abundant mineral resources and natural treasures. Moreover, they were all ownerless and could be plucked at will. The closer the world was to the top of the tower, the richer the treasures and resources it contained. Thus, the powerhouses of the various sects began to crazily plunder the 7-Star Pagoda for resources. After the news spread, all the major sects rushed over and joined in the plundering and pillaging operation. However, conflicts soon broke out between the various sects, which led to one battle after another. In the end, in order to prevent the 8 great sects from killing each other and causing a chaotic war, the experts of the various sects had no choice but to sit down and discuss. After many discussions and coordination, The 8 great sects finally decided to jointly control the 7 Stars Pagoda and set up the Tianyuan Grand Array to protect the pagoda. The 7 Stars Pagoda would open once a year. Each sect could only send one disciple into the pagoda to climb to a higher level and search for more precious resources and treasures. Unfortunately, in recent years, except for Yun Yao who had climbed to the 7th floor of the 7 Stars Pagoda, none of the other sect's disciples had been able to enter the 7th floor. Ji Tianxing looked at the 7 Stars Pagoda for a while and saw that several young martial artists had gathered in the open space below the pagoda, so he walked over. The open space with a radius of 100 meters was paved with black stone slabs, and there was a 10-meter-tall array platform in the middle. This was obviously built by the people of the 8 great sects, and the array in the array platform was the key to opening the 7 Stars Pagoda. When Ji Tianxing came to the open space, several young martial artists in the field also turned their heads to look at him. When those people saw his appearance, they suddenly showed surprised and puzzled expressions and whispered to each other, "Hey, isn't this guy a disciple of the Sky Pillar sect? Strange, the Sky Pillar sect's Yun Yao didn't come? They actually sent him to challenge the 7 Stars Pagoda? I know this guy. I saw him on the star platform during the 8 sect council. He's the disciple of the Sky Pillar sect's sect master. I think his name is Ji Tianxing. Yes, I remember that this guy's strength is very weak. It seems that he hasn't become an elite disciple yet, right?" These young martial artists were all chief disciples of their respective sections. They had seen Ji Tianxing at the 8th sect council before. Everyone's impression of him was still at that time. They didn't know that he had defeated Chen Su and Tang Ilua in the Heavenless tournament and became the second genius of the Sky Pillar sect. Among them, there was a beautiful woman with a slim figure, a dignified face, and an elegant temperament. She was the chief disciple of the Heart Moon sect, Feng Min. The young man standing beside her was the chief disciple of the 6 Unity sect, Wu. He had previously worked with Feng Min and Ji Tianxing to destroy the Demon Cave. There was also a handsome young man in the crowd. He was the chief disciple of the Thousand Autumns sect, Xiao Xian. Back then, on the star platform, this person had also seen Ji Tianxing. At this moment, when Xiao Xian saw that the person from the Sky Pillar sect was Ji Tianxing and not Yun Yao, he couldn't help but reveal a disappointed expression. As soon as Ji Tianxing walked over, he snorted with a displeased expression, "Umph. Did the people from the Sky Pillar sect take the wrong medicine? They didn't send Yun Yao to challenge the 7 Stars Pagoda, but sent a brat instead?" Xiao Xian didn't deliberately lower his voice, so the young disciples beside him heard it. Everyone immediately quieted down and looked at Ji Tianxing playfully, wanting to see his reaction. Ji Tianxing originally saw 2 acquaintances and was about to come over to greet them. But when he suddenly heard Xiao Xian's cold snort, he couldn't help but frown. He looked at Xiao Xian coldly and said indifferently, "If you criticize my Sky Pillar sect again, I'll make you crawl away." It was a very short sentence, but it contained an unquestionable domineering and fierce aura. Xiao Xian was immediately stunned, and several young martial artists also showed surprised expressions as they looked at Ji Tianxing in disbelief. Everyone couldn't believe that Ji Tianxing had the guts to humiliate Xiao Xian in public. Xiao Xian was so angry that his face turned ashen. He glared at Ji Tianxing and shouted in a deep voice, "Brat, what did you say?" Ji Tianxing looked at him indifferently and said coldly, "I told you to keep your mouth clean, or I'll shut you up." "Hee, you're very arrogant, brat." Xiao Xian was so angry that he laughed, and a cold light surged in his eyes. "If Yun Yao were here, I would naturally respect her. But who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like this? You're courting death." Xiao Xian was already depressed, and being humiliated by Ji Tianxing in public, he was naturally furious. Chapter 318. Xiao Xian was the chief disciple of the Thousand Autumns sect and had the strength of a LV8 Tongxian realm martial artist. Xiao Xian realm martial artist's palm strike was extremely powerful and caused a gust of wind to blow. Everyone retreated. Ji Tianxing's expression did not change. He calmly extended his left hand and punched out. Bam! His fiery red fist radiance collided with Xiao Xian's blue palm shadow and exploded with a loud bang. The violent energy exploded, blowing everyone's clothes into the air. Dust was also blown up in the air. What was inconceivable was that Ji Tianxing stood on the spot without moving, but Xiao Xian was forced back 8 steps and almost fell to the ground. Xiao Xian was stunned. He stared at Ji Tianxing with his eyes wide open in disbelief. The surrounding young martial artists also exclaimed in disbelief. Even Feng Min and Wu Yu revealed astonishment in their eyes. They did not expect that Ji Tianxing's strength would increase so much in just a month. He was actually stronger than Xiao Xian. However, the crowd did not know that Ji Tianxing did not use his full strength. If he used his full strength and his trump card, Xiao Xian would not be his match. After all, Xiao Xian, who was at LV8 Tongxin realm, was about the same strength as Tang Yiluo. Xiao Xian came back to his senses and his expression became uglier. The anger in his eyes surged. He stared at Ji Tianxing with a ferocious expression and sneered, "Ha, no wonder you're so arrogant. You have some skills." Ji Tianxing looked at him indifferently and said, "It's more than enough to kill you. You're fucking courting death." Xiao Xian suppressed his anger and immediately burst out. He cursed with a twisted face and a blue light surged from his body. He was going to explode with his full strength. However, right at this moment, Feng Min and Wu Yu arrived beside him without making a sound. They stretched out their palms and pressed on Xiao Xian's shoulders. "Xiao Xian, stop fighting in front of everyone. Aren't you afraid of embarrassing the Thousand Autumns sect? Junior brother Xiao, the 7 Stars Pagoda is about to open. Do you want to cause trouble at this time?" Feng Min and Wu Yu's strength were both not weaker than Xiao Xian. The two people attacking at the same time immediately suppressed Xiao Xian, making it difficult for him to erupt with true essence. Xiao Xian turned to look at the two of them and frowned. He had no choice but to suppress the anger in his heart. "Since you two are trying to persuade me, I'll spare that brat for now." In fact, he was just taking the opportunity to find a way out. After all, he didn't want to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Sky Pillar sect's disciples and fight them in public. Most importantly, he could tell that Ji Tianxing was not someone to be trifled with. He might not be able to beat him. Seeing that Xiao Xian had suppressed his anger, Wu Yu and Feng Min walked towards Ji Tianxing. "Junior brother Ji, we meet again." "Junior brother Ji, how have you been?" The two of them smiled and cupped their hands, greeting Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing also cupped his hands in return and exchanged a few pleasantries with the two of them. The other young disciples were standing not far away and discussing in low voices. They looked at Ji Tianxing with complicated expressions. Previously, they didn't put Ji Tianxing in their eyes. Now that they knew, they didn't dare to look down on and ridicule him. At this moment, a tall and sturdy young man in a white robe strode into the open space with his head held high. Seeing this person arrive, several young disciples went up to greet him with smiles on their faces. "Senior brother Shi, you're finally here. Senior brother Wenyu, why are you the last to arrive?" "Hee." Looking at senior brother Wenyu's confident appearance, "It seems that you're very confident in entering the 7th floor this time?" The person who came was the chief disciple of the Tianjian sect, Shi Wenyu. The young disciples surrounding him all belonged to sects that had good relations with the Tianjian sect. Xiao Xian, who had been humiliated in public, also surrounded Shi Wenyu. He said to Shi Wenyu in a playful tone, "Senior brother Wenyu, who do you think the Sky Pillar sect sent to enter the 7 Stars Pagoda this time?" Shi Wenyu froze for a moment and asked with a frown, "Isn't it Yun Yao?" "Of course not." Xiao Xian sneered. He turned his head and glanced at Ji Tianxing not far away, and said in a gloomy tone, "It's that brat." Shi Wenyu's eyes flashed and he immediately turned his head to look at Ji Tianxing. He remained calm and collected on the surface, but he secretly muttered in his heart, "Great. Yun Yao didn't come. After I enter the 7th floor, I'll definitely complete the task given to me by Master." At this time, Xiao Xian used a secret sound transmission technique and quietly said to Shi Wenyu, "Senior brother Wenyu, this brat is very arrogant. He just said in public that only he can enter the 7th floor. Shi Wenyu's eyes turned gloomy. He glanced at Ji Tianxing and nodded. I've seen him on the star platform. This brat really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. If Yun Yao is qualified to say that, then who does he think he is? With me, Shi Wenyu, here, this little loach can't stir up any trouble. Seeing that Shi Wenyu was staring at Ji Tianxing with strong hostility, Qiao Xian also revealed a sneer of success. After a while, all the disciples of the 8 sects had arrived. Everyone boarded the array platform and surrounded a circular array disc. There were 8 grooves on the millstone-sized array disc. Their shapes, sizes, and patterns were the same as the tokens in everyone's hands. Everyone took out their respective tokens and placed them in the grooves on the array disc. As a result, the array disc began to slowly rotate, emitting a 5-colored array brilliance. The Tianyuan array protecting the 7 stars pagoda was activated, and an oval-shaped light door appeared in front of everyone. Only after passing through the light door could they enter the array and arrive at the entrance of the 7 stars pagoda. Everyone put away their tokens and looked up at the entrance of the first floor of the 7 stars pagoda. Shi Wenyu looked around and glanced at everyone. He smiled and said, "Junior brothers and sisters, it's time to challenge the pagoda again. Who will go first this time?" Several young disciples began to discuss with different expressions. Senior brother Wenyu is full of confidence. "Why don't you go first?" Senior brother Shi, you go first. Yun Yao didn't come this year. The person who can enter the 7th floor must be senior brother Wenyu. At this moment, Ji Tianxing, who had been silent all this time, stepped into the light door first. Swoosh! His figure flashed and passed through the Tianyuan array and arrived at the entrance of the 7 stars pagoda. Shi Wenyu and the other young disciples' faces suddenly changed, and they all turned to look at Ji Tianxing. This kid is really arrogant. With senior brother Wenyu here, this kid still dares to be the first to challenge the pagoda. He doesn't take senior brother Wenyu seriously at all. Haha, this is the first time this kid has come to challenge the pagoda. He must be a hothead. Let's see how he will be ejected from the pagoda later. I bet this kid can't even pass the first 3 floors. Just as everyone was gloating, Ji Tianxing turned and walked to the side of the pagoda. Under everyone's puzzled gaze, he stepped on the narrow ladder on the side of the pagoda and directly ascended to the 4th floor of the 7 stars pagoda. He ignored the first 3 floors and started from the 4th floor of the 7 stars pagoda. Chapter 319. Oh my god, is this kid crazy? It's his first time here and he's starting from the 4th level? He's overestimating himself. Ji Tianxing is really a hothead who doesn't know his limits. Everyone just wait and see. In 15 minutes, that kid will fail and be ejected from the 7-star pagoda. Seeing that Ji Tianxing had directly entered the 4th floor, the few young disciples all revealed a gloating sneer, and they unscrupulously mocked and talked about him. Feng Min and Wu Yu naturally wouldn't open their mouths to talk about Ji Tianxing, much less mock him. However, their expressions and eyes showed that they did not know whether to laugh or cry. Obviously, they felt that Ji Tianxing was too confident. Sigh, it's junior brother Ji's first time here and he's so reckless? Wu Yu sighed softly. If he had started from the 1st level honestly with his talent and strength, it would not be a problem for him to pass the first 3 levels. Yes. Feng Min nodded in agreement and said with a regretful tone, if he passes the first 3 levels, he will gain a lot of benefits. But if he starts from the 4th level and fails later, he won't gain anything and will be ejected. There were 2 doors to enter the 7-star pagoda. Under normal circumstances, disciples from various sects would enter from the 1st level of the pagoda and go up 1 level at a time. Every level of the pagoda was a small world. There were risks and tests, but there were also many benefits and resources. The first 3 levels were relatively simple. Disciples from various sects would go through them one by one and gain many benefits. Among the disciples from various sects, other than Yun Yao who had the strength and qualifications to start from the 4th level, no one else dared to do so. No one expected that Ji Tianxing would imitate Yun Yao and directly start from the 4th floor on his first attempt at the pagoda. In fact, Ji Tianxing's purpose for coming to the 7-star pagoda was different from the disciples from various sections. The disciples from various sects wanted to gain as much cultivation resources as possible in the 7-star pagoda to improve their strength. Ji Tianxing, on the other hand, wanted to save Ji Ku. He only wanted to reach the top of the 7-star pagoda as soon as possible and place the Jade's soul coffin. It was precisely because of this that he couldn't be bothered to start from the 1st level. He didn't want to waste time. Shwa. The black door to the 4th floor of the 7 stars pagoda opened. Ji Tianxing stepped through the door and disappeared in a flash. In the open space below the tower, the crowd saw that he had really entered the 4th level and discussed for a while. Xiao Xian had a cold smile on his face as he said, "Ha, that brat indeed entered the 4th level. Truly, the ignorant are fearless. I'd like to see how long that brat can last." In at most 15 minutes, he will fail and be ejected from the 7 stars pagoda. The chief disciple of the true martial sect also nodded in agreement. Let's not rush into the pagoda. Let's wait here for 15 minutes and see how disheveled that kid will be when he gets ejected. The Windfire sect disciple looked at Shi Wenyu beside him. Seeing his gloomy face, he smiled and said, "Senior brother Wenyu, Yun Yao didn't come to challenge this time. Only you can reach the 7th level. How can you let that brat steal the limelight?" Shi Wenyu frowned and said in a cold tone, "Everyone, stay here and watch the show. I'll make a move first." After saying that, he also stepped through the light door and walked toward the suspended ladder on the side of the 7 stars pagoda. In a moment, he stepped on the suspended ladder and ascended to the 4th level. He took out the silver token and opened the black stone door. He also began to challenge from the 4th level. The disciples in the open space whispered a few words to each other. There's a good show to watch now. It seems that senior brother Wenyu has been angered by that brat. Let's wait and see the result. Let's see who will successfully enter the 5th level between Shi Wenyu and Ji Tianxing. At most 15 minutes, if the copper lamp on the octagonal cornice of the 4th level of the pagoda lights up, it means that they have succeeded. Everyone, take your time and watch. I'll make a move first. Soon, several disciples stepped through the light door and began to challenge the 1st level of the 7 stars pagoda. Xiao Xian and the 2 young disciples were not in a hurry to challenge the pagoda. They stood under the pagoda and looked up at the 4th level, waiting to see Ji Tianxing make a fool of himself. Ji Tianxing stood on a wide street and looked around expressionlessly. The street under his feet was flat and neat. On both sides of the street were rows of high-rise houses and rows of shops. There was an endless stream of pedestrians hurriedly walking through the street or lingering between the shops. The hawking of the peddlers and the laughter of the pedestrians constantly came from all directions. There were also many martial artists carrying swords and sabers. Their auras were valiant and overbearing. They walked through the street quickly like the wind, and the collision of their swords and sabers made crisp clanging sounds. When the commoners in plain clothes saw these martial artists passing by, they immediately panicked and moved far away in awe. This is actually a city? There are so many commoners and martial artists living in the city? Ji Tianxing looked around, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Before coming to the 7 stars pagoda, Yun Yao had introduced the situation of the 7 stars pagoda to him. The world in the first 3 levels of the pagoda was fixed and did not have much danger or difficulty. However, from the 4th level onwards, the world in the pagoda became more difficult and mysterious. According to Yun Yao, the world in the 4th level was an illusory world. In this small world, there would be all kinds of illusions, such as a world of ice and snow, a volcano with flowing lava, a vast primitive forest, or a vast ocean. Yun Yao entered the 4th level of the 7 stars pagoda every year, and the illusory world she encountered was different. Therefore, she could not sum up any experience to pass on to Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing could only rely on himself to slowly explore and observe to gradually understand this city. He walked on the street and looked around with keen eyes to explore the city's situation. It was early in the morning, and the morning fog that shrouded the city was gradually dispersing. There was a breakfast shop at the corner of the street, and the aroma of porridge and buns kept coming out. There were many commoners sitting around tables, eating porridge on benches and eating meat buns with relish. An orange-red sun was rising from the western horizon. The sun is rising from the west? When he saw this scene, Ji Tianxing was stunned for a moment and thought that he was going in the wrong direction. However, after he checked again and again, he was sure that he was not going in the wrong direction. It's really strange. The sun is rising from the west. Ji Tianxing muttered in his heart. He felt that this city was giving off a strange aura. At this moment, a few shrill screams came from the bun shop 10 meters in front of him. A tall and sturdy middle-aged warrior with a lofty face rushed out of the shop with a treasured saber in his hand. This person had dark skin and 2 scars on his face. He was emitting a valiant, murderous aura, and the blade of the treasured saber in his hand was still dripping with dark red blood. In the shop, the white-haired old shopkeeper was lying motionless on the counter. His neck had been cut off, and blood was gushing out from the wound. There were a few corpses lying on the ground, including the waiter, the steaming bun master, and a few innocent diners and commoners. Everyone was killed with a single slash. Their necks were cut off, and their heads rolled to the side. Blood splattered on the ground, the walls, and the tables. The diners in the bun shop were so frightened that they fled in panic, and they screamed in horror. The aroma of porridge and buns was immediately covered by the thick smell of blood. The scarred man, who was brimming with killing intent, laughed sinisterly when he saw everyone fleeing in panic. Chapter 320. Ji Tianxing hadn't figured out what was going on in this city when he saw such a shocking scene. In just a few breaths, a few more people who couldn't escape in time were slashed to the ground by the scarred man. Blood sprayed everywhere. Several heads rolled on the ground, leaving a trail of blood along the way. A stream of blood spurted in front of Ji Tianxing, almost spilling on his white robe. There was also a white-haired old man's head, which rolled to his feet. He stared at him with wide eyes, which were full of fear and despair. Ji Tianxing's face became cold. Anger rose in his heart, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Too cruel, too inhumane. He didn't hesitate to pull out the black dragon sword and slashed at the scarred man 10 steps away. The man was still chasing after an old woman who was staggering and holding a walking stick. She was still holding 2 meat buns wrapped in paper tightly in her hands. Bang! In the muffled sound, the dazzling sword light from the black dragon sword slashed at the treasured sword in the scarred man's hand. The heavy treasured sword flew out, and the scarred man was also knocked to the ground. His left hand covered his broken right arm, and he struggled to get up. Ji Tianxing's figure flashed and came in front of the scarred man. He lifted his foot and stomped on his chest. Bang! The scarred man's chest caved in, and he spat out a stream of blood. He was seriously injured by Ling Yun's foot and lay on the ground, unable to move. Ji Tianxing stared at him with a cold face and asked in a cold voice, "Why? They are all innocent people. Why do you want to kill them? What grudge do they have with you? How can you be so cruel and inhumane?" The scarred man stared at Ji Tianxing with his eyes wide open and roared in a low voice, "Little bastard, it's none of your business. I ate 2 meat buns, and they put coriander in them. Of course, I want to kill their whole family." Ji Tianxing was stunned. He only felt that his understanding of good and evil in human nature had been subverted. Such an insignificant matter actually made the knife-scarred man go crazy and kill people on the street, and he even said it so confidently and confidently. What was wrong with this world? How could this city be so strange? Ji Tianxing glared at the scarred man and shouted angrily, "You crazy executioner, you deserve to die." The scar-faced man stretched out his hands and tried his best to pull his ankles. He struggled to get up and roared at the top of his lungs, "Do you need a reason to kill? Who asked you to be a busybody? You're really stubborn." Ji Tianxing didn't want to waste any more words with him. He held the black dragon and pierced through his chest. Poof! The blade pierced through the scarred man's heart, and blood spurted out from the wound. His body immediately stiffened, and his eyes widened as he stopped moving. Ji Tianxing withdrew the black dragon sword, only to discover that the scarred man's body had ignited with golden flames. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into thin air. The blazing golden flames turned into a wisp of golden true essence and quickly entered his body. He immediately felt that the wisp of pure golden true essence merged with his true essence, increasing his strength a little. It was equivalent to 2 days of closed-door cultivation. Ji Tianxing was stunned for a moment, and his expression became a little strange. He secretly pondered for a moment and vaguely guessed something. He turned and left. The street corner, which had been bustling with people just a moment ago, immediately became dead silent. Not even the shadow of a ghost could be seen. Ji Tianxing passed through an alley and came to another street. This street was still bustling with noise and excitement. The pedestrians were calm and relaxed, as if they didn't know about the tragedy that happened on the next street. Ji Tianxing walked on the street with a normal expression. After silently observing for a while, he found a clue. He found that the doors of the shops on both sides of the street had a palm-sized mark engraved on the door frame. It looked like a badge. He walked in front of a cloth shop and stared at the badge on the door frame. In the black badge, there was actually a black spider carved on it. It looked sinister and eerie, revealing a strange feeling. At this moment, there was a rush of horse hooves on the street behind him. 6 valiant warriors in black, wearing masks, and riding 6 tall wild-wind wildebeests, rushed over from the end of the street. The 6 warriors in black were like a gust of wind blowing through the street, knocking away all the people who didn't have time to dodge. They rushed to a pharmacy and stopped in front of it. Swish, swish. The 6 of them jumped down from their horses and rushed into the drugstore like tigers and wolves, carrying their treasured sabers that were shining with a cold light. The surrounding people were suddenly scared and fled in all directions. They screamed in horror and left the basket of vegetables, parcels, and some sundries on the ground. Run! The horse gang is here. Run for your life. There were not many people in the pharmacy in the early morning. There were only the shopkeeper, 2 doctors, and a few old people who were in their twilight years. They were asking for medical treatment. After the 6 horse gang in black rushed into the pharmacy, they waved their swords and killed the shopkeeper and the doctors without saying anything. Swish, swish, swish. They killed the shopkeeper and the doctors with a few chopped heads rolling on the ground. A few old people with white hair were so scared that they fell to the ground. They rolled and crawled out of the door to escape. But before they could run a few steps, they were kicked out by the horse gang in black, or their necks were chopped off by the swords. Suddenly, the pharmacy became a mess. The smell of blood rushed to their faces. After the black-clothed bandits killed the man, they rummaged through the medicine store for medicinal herbs and put all kinds of medicinal herbs into linen bags. In a short time, the 6 horse gang had a few big bags of medicinal herbs. They were about to leave the pharmacy and escape. At this moment, Ji Tianxing appeared at the door of the pharmacy with a gloomy face. He held the black dragon sword in his hand and blocked the way of the horse gang. The 6 horse gang stared at him coldly and shouted angrily in a low voice. "Brat, get lost. You're courting death. Meddling in other people's business. Go to hell." At the same time, the 6 horse gang in black wielded their swords and charged at Ji Tianxing with murderous intent. They started to besiege him. The 6 of them were at LV2 or LV3 of the Tongxin realm. When they joined forces to besiege Ji Tianxing, the radiance of their swords and sabers flashed. A violent gust of wind blew in all directions, shattering the medicine cabinet and the door. Ji Tianxing waved the black dragon sword with a cold expression. He exerted all his strength and slashed out dozens of dazzling sword radiances. Bang, bang, bang. After a series of dull sounds of sword radiances colliding, the 6 horse gang in black were sent flying and lay on the ground with blood all over their bodies. After exchanging a few blows, the 6 horse gang in black were killed by Ji Tianxing on the spot. Their corpses burned with golden flames and soon disappeared into thin air. They turned into wisps of golden vital essence and entered Ji Tianxing's body. After the 6 wisps of pure vital essence merged with his vital essence, his strength increased by a large margin. Ji Tianxing put away the black dragon sword and was about to leave the medicine store. At this moment he suddenly heard the sound of fighting and terrified screams coming from a restaurant 100 meters away. He immediately used the shadowless step and turned into an afterimage. He dashed into the restaurant as fast as the wind. Just as he rushed into the restaurant's lobby, he saw that the lobby was in a mess. Countless tables and chairs were shattered into pieces and scattered on the ground. Dozens of corpses covered in blood were lying on the ground in different postures. Large patches of blood were splattered on the ground. The blood even gathered together and flowed on the ground like a small stream. 2 middle-aged men dressed like tycoons were fleeing from the second floor with terrified expressions. They scrambled into the lobby. A young man in a white robe walked down the stairs with a cold smile. He carried a treasured sword and came to the lobby. His white robe was stained with a few streaks of blood. Dark red blood was still dripping from the blade of his sword that shone with a cold light. When Ji Tianxing saw his appearance, he immediately frowned and his face turned cold. Chapter 321. Ji Tianxing had never expected that the murderer who had killed so many innocent people in the restaurant would be Shi Wenyu. He froze at once and stared at Shi Wenyu in disbelief. Shi Wenyu was also stunned when he saw Su Ke appear in the lobby. However, Shi Wenyu only glanced at him before he caught up with the 2 middle-aged tycoons and pierced their chests with his sword. The 2 middle-aged tycoons died instantly and their corpses fell to the ground. Their eyes were still wide open and blood kept flowing out of their mouths. In the blink of an eye, 2 wisps of light golden true core strength flew out of the 2 corpses and went into Shi Wenyu's body. Shi Wenyu suddenly showed a look of enjoyment and a smile on his face. He stepped over the corpses on the ground and walked toward the door. Ji Tianxing stared at Shi Wenyu's back and shouted, "Shi Wenyu, I didn't expect that as the chief disciple of the Tianjin sect, you would be so cruel and tyrannical and kill innocent people." Shi Wenyu immediately stopped and turned to look at him, his face full of surprise. "Ji Tianxing, are you out of your mind? Can't you see it? This is an illusory world. Everything is fake. As long as you can increase your strength by killing people, who cares if they are good or evil?" Hearing his words, Ji Tianxing frowned and shouted in a low voice, "Greed will only destroy human nature. Shi Wenyu, you are really unscrupulous in order to achieve your goal." Shi Wenyu was stunned for a moment. He looked at Su Ke in a strange way and sneered contemptuously. "Hee, I forgot that this is the first time you have come to the tower. It's ridiculous that I am talking nonsense with an idiot like you." After that, he glanced at Ji Tianxing with disdain, stepped over the door of the restaurant and left quickly. Ji Tianxing stood in the lobby and looked at Shi Wenyu's back. He looked at the dozens of corpses in the lobby and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Of course, he knew that this city was an illusory world. Every blade of grass, every tree, every person, and every object were virtual illusions. However, he could not kill the old, weak, sick, and innocent people just to increase his strength. He could not do it and he could not do it. The most fundamental reason was that he could not get over the hurdle in his heart and could not blind his conscience. After a moment, when he walked out of the lobby of the restaurant, screams and fighting came from a shop on the street. Shi Wenyu killed all the people in the shop and rushed to the street, killing passers-by and people everywhere. He killed everyone he saw, even the old, women, and children. It was as if in his eyes, those living beings were just grass and dust on the side of the road, insignificant. In a short quarter hour, Shi Wenyu killed hundreds of people. Even though he had slaughtered many old, weak, women, and children, his expression did not change. His eyes flickered with excitement and anticipation. Ji Tianxing couldn't stand it anymore and chased after him to stop him. "Shi Wenyu, stop." He waved the black dragon sword and slashed a dazzling sword light at Shi Wenyu from the side. He did not use his full strength. This sword was just to force Shi Wenyu to retreat. However, Shi Wenyu was already prepared for him. He dodged in a flash and killed a few people along the way. Then he sped up and fled the street, jumping onto the roof of a house. He used his lightness skill and jumped through the connected roofs, escaping to the center of the city. Ji Tianxing followed closely behind him. He also jumped over countless roofs and rushed to the center of the city. In the process of the two rushing to the center of the city, Ji Tianxing saw countless killings and tragedies along the way. Many martial artists with swords and sabers were killing in the city. They burned, looted, and wantonly killed innocent people. Finally, Wenyu rushed to the square in the center of the city and stopped in front of a huge stone statue that was hundreds of meters tall. This pitch-black stone statue was carved of an 8-clawed spider. Its body was as black as ink, and its claws and teeth were abnormally sharp. Its appearance was ferocious and sinister. When he saw the black spider statue, Ji Tianxing immediately remembered the emblems he saw at the entrance of the various shops. He looked up at the black spider statue and frowned. Wenyu stood under the statue and looked at him angrily. He asked in a cold voice, "Ji Tianxing, what do you want? If you want to stop me from passing the trial, then don't blame me for being impolite." Ji Tianxing also retorted, "Wenyu, you are killing innocent people in the city. What does that have to do with you passing the trial?" Wenyu frowned and pointed around the city. He sneered, "Ji Tianxing, can't you see that there are killings everywhere in the city? The illusory martial artists in the city are massacring the commoners. This is a hint for us to pass the trial. Only by killing people can we pass the trial. Ji Tianxing, I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Get out of my way." Before Ji Tianxing could speak, the huge spider statue behind Wenyu suddenly shook violently. Kachat! Kachat! As the black spider statue shook violently, dense cracks appeared on the surface of the statue and kept spreading in all directions. Countless tiny stone fragments, mixed with huge pieces of broken stone, rustled down. The 100-meter-tall spider statue was about to collapse. The huge commotion caused the entire square to tremble. When the people in all directions saw this scene, they screamed in horror and fled in all directions in panic. Wenyu was also shocked and immediately turned his head to look behind him. Seeing countless gravel falling from 100 meters in the sky and the entire black spider statue about to collapse, his expression changed drastically. Swoosh! Wenyu took a big step forward and ran to the side. Just as he ran for a dozen steps, countless stone fragments and huge rocks came crashing down from the sky, smashing on the ground and producing loud bangs. Ji Tianxing also quickly retreated, avoiding the countless gravel and retreating to the edge of the square 100 meters away. At the same time, the entire black spider statue collapsed completely, turning into gravel that piled up into a small mountain, causing smoke and dust to fill the sky. A sharp and ear-piercing cry came from the thick smoke and dust. Hiss! The next moment, a black behemoth that was more than 10 meters tall crawled out of the pile of gravel. When Ji Tianxing and Wenyu saw the black monster's appearance clearly, their expressions were grave, and a cold light flashed in their eyes. They saw that the black behemoth was actually a giant spider that was as big as a 3-story building. Its entire body was suffused with a dark cold light, and it had 8 abnormally thick and strong limbs. There were also several rows of dense barbs under its abdomen. The strangest thing was that this giant spider had a huge abdomen and ferocious limbs and sharp claws. Its upper body and head were that of a strange and ferocious woman. Chapter 322. The giant spider stretched out its 8 legs, kicked over countless boulders, and slowly approached Wenyu. Its whole body was surrounded by black gas, and green venom was constantly dripping from its wide open mouth. Wenyu's face was extremely dignified. He clenched his sword with both hands and kept retreating. After a burst of crashing sounds, the giant spider crawled out of the rubble. It showed a ferocious expression, and its brown eyes surged with cold light. It suddenly sped up and pounced on Wenyu. Wenyu's face immediately changed, and he used his lightness skill to retreat, avoiding the giant spider's attack. Bang bang bang! The giant spider missed its target, and its 8 sharp claws smashed the ground of the square, smashing the ground into pieces and splashing out countless gravel. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Shi Wenyu waved his sword with all his strength, and slashed out dozens of cold sword lights toward the giant spider. The giant spider's body was too big, and it was difficult to dodge. It was immediately hit by the sword lights, and there was a burst of muffled bang 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 sounds. However, the black carapace on the surface of its body was too hard, and its defense was extremely strong. Shi Wenyu's sword light did not break the black carapace, and only left a few white marks on the carapace. The giant spider was enraged. It opened its mouth with a ferocious face, and spat out a dark green venom, sprinkling it on Shi Wenyu. Not only that, it jumped 30 meters away, and pounced on Shi Wenyu from the sky, and it also sprinkled a gray spider web, covering an area of 30 meters. Shi Wenyu was suddenly in a dangerous situation. He desperately waved his sword, and used a powerful sword technique to launch a desperate counterattack. But he was soon drowned by the giant spider's figure, and the sword light that he desperately used was also covered by the smoke and spider web. Bang! 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 Muffled sounds rang out incessantly as the violent energy exploded and spread out in all directions. Shi Wenyu was like a small boat in the stormy sea, appearing and disappearing, and was in danger of being drowned at any time. He had only fought with the giant spider for a dozen moves, and he was blasted out and smashed into the square, creating a huge pit on the ground. He climbed up in a sorry state, and while retreating, he did not forget to roar at Ji Tianxing, "Ji Tianxing, what are you waiting for? Come and help me." Ji Tianxing, who was standing at the edge of the square 100 meters away, couldn't help sneering when he saw Tang Wulin's miserable appearance. "Help you? On what basis? You slaughtered innocents in the city just now. This is your retribution." Shi Wenyu was so angry that his face turned ashen. He was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. He tried his best to resist the giant spider's onslaught and shouted, "Ji Tianxing, if you want to pass this trial, you must join hands with me to kill this giant spider. I can see that it's the trial of the 4th level. Once we kill it, we'll be able to pass." How could Ji Tianxing believe him? It was even more impossible for him to fight alongside him. Since you think that you can pass by killing the big spider, then you should work harder. I want to see if you can pass successfully. Take care of yourself." After saying this, Ji Tianxing turned around and left without hesitation. "Don't go." Shi Wenyu was extremely anxious and shouted at the top of his lungs. However, his voice was quickly drowned out by the loud sounds of fighting. Ji Tianxing quickly left the square and continued to run through the city. His eyes were sharp as he looked around for clues. After a while, when he rushed into a street, he saw a few martial artists holding swords and sabers. They were killing and robbing people in the shops on the street. Outside the shops, there were many corpses on the ground and fresh blood splattered everywhere. Those martial artists were carrying the things that they had robbed. They sneered complacently and talked without restraint. Ji Tianxing rushed up with a gloomy face. Without saying a word, he pulled out the black dragon sword and killed those martial artists. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Dozens of dazzling cold sword lights, carrying a cold killing intent, instantly enveloped the few martial artists. Everyone was shocked. They immediately waved their swords and sabers to block and counterattack. However, these people were not Ji Tianxing's match at all. Both sides had only exchanged a few moves before several cultivators were killed. After they were killed, their corpses ignited with golden flames and turned into pure golden true essence, which drilled into Ji Tianxing's body. After the golden true essence merged with Ji Tianxing's own true essence, his strength increased by another level. When Shi Wenyu killed innocent people in the city, the corpses that he killed did not burn. The golden true essence that emerged was very thin. Even if I absorbed it, it would not increase my strength by much. After I killed those brutal martial artists, their corpses would burn and turn into pure true essence, which would allow me to quickly increase my strength. Thinking up to this point, Ji Tianxing understood that his method was the fastest way to increase his strength in an open and aboveboard manner. Next, he continued to shuttle through the city, looking for clues everywhere. Along the way, he constantly encountered people who were fleeing in panic, as well as brutal martial artists who burned, killed, and looted everywhere. Every time he encountered those inhumane martial artists who killed innocent people, he would not let them go. He would kill them with lightning speed. After those brutal martial artists were killed, their corpses would ignite with golden flames and turn into wisps of golden true essence, which would enter his body. As time passed, half a day passed quickly. Ji Tianxing continuously killed hundreds of brutal martial artists. His strength had greatly increased, and he had finally reached the 6th level of the mystic comprehending realm. At this time, he had just rushed into an old house. Screams of agony could be heard from various rooms in the house. There were several corpses in the courtyard, all of which belonged to servants and maids. Ji Tianxing determined the location of the battle by listening to the sounds. He then rushed into the depths of the house like a gust of wind. In a spacious hall, he saw more than 10 well-dressed people. These people were old and young. They were the 3rd generation of the house owner's family. A few mounted gangsters dressed in black were killing them with their swords. Blood splattered everywhere, and many heads rolled to the ground. In the short span of a few breaths, more than 10 people from 3 generations of the family were killed. Their corpses were piled up on the ground. After the mounted gangsters finished killing, they went around to plunder their belongings. Ji Tianxing finally arrived. He rushed into the hall with a grim expression. He waved the black dragon sword with all his might, causing sword light to fill the sky as he attacked the mounted gangsters. The mounted gangsters immediately surrounded him, roaring and cursing as they launched a counterattack. Both sides fought fiercely in the hall. Soon, they rushed out of the door and moved to the courtyard outside. Ding ding dang dang, the sound of swords clashing could be heard. A violent and devastating wind spread out, turning the entire courtyard into a mess. In the short span of 100 breaths, the mounted gangsters of the mystic comprehending realm were all killed by Ji Tianxing. The corpses ignited with golden flames and turned into pure golden true essence, which entered Ji Tianxing's body. Ji Tianxing put away the black dragon sword. Suddenly, he heard a child crying in the hall. He stopped and hesitated for a moment. Then he turned around and returned to the hall. Behind the screen in the corner of the hall, he saw a little girl about 6 or 7 years old. She was curled up in the corner with tears all over her face. She was crying so hard that she was out of breath. Ji Tianxing knew that this was an illusory world. Everything was fake. However, when he saw that the whole family had died tragically and only the little girl was left alive, he still felt somewhat depressed. He reached out to wipe away the tears on the little girl's face. He coaxed her gently for a while before she stopped crying. The little girl raised her head and looked at him. Her big clear eyes revealed her innocence. She held an ancient bronze mirror with both hands and handed it to Ji Tianxing. Chapter 323. Hearing the little girl's clear voice, Ji Tianxing noticed the bronze mirror in her hand. Previously, she was curled up in the corner, and even though she was trembling in fear, her hands were still holding this ancient bronze mirror tightly. Ji Tianxing took the bronze mirror and looked at it. He found that this bronze mirror was a little strange. There was a circle of mysterious patterns on the edge of the bronze mirror, and a picture was carved on the back. It was a huge black spider. What was more strange was that when Ji Tianxing held the bronze mirror and looked at it, there was nothing in the mirror. It did not reflect his appearance at all. This discovery made Ji Tianxing frown, and his heart was filled with doubts. This is an illusory world. The sun rises from the west, and even the mirror does not reflect one's figure. He secretly thought for a while, and suddenly a light flashed in his mind. He vaguely guessed something. He threw the bronze mirror on the ground, and with a bang sound, the bronze mirror broke into pieces. Suddenly, the broken bronze mirror lit up with a blazing white true essence brilliance. Swoosh! The dazzling white light immediately condensed into an oval-shaped light door, erected in front of him. The blazing white light door was dark and mysterious, as if it led to another world. Ji Tianxing suddenly smiled and muttered to himself, I see, I guessed right, this is a mirror world. After saying that, he lowered his head and looked at the little girl in the green dress. He smiled and thanked her. The little girl looked up at him, and her pink and cute little face showed an innocent smile. Ji Tianxing stepped into the light door, and his figure disappeared with a swoosh. The next moment, a white light flashed in front of his eyes, and he came to another strange world. Under the 7 Stars Pagoda, Qiao Xian and the 2 young disciples were still standing in the open space. The 3 of them stood side by side, talking and laughing softly as they looked up at the 4th level of the 7 Stars Pagoda. 15 minutes is almost up, and the bronze lamp on the 4th level of the pagoda still has not moved. Senior brother Qiao, even if we continue to wait, it will be a waste of time. That's right. It's Ji Tianxing's first time here. He probably doesn't even know the directions in the tower. How could he pass? Xiao Xian revealed a mocking sneer and said in a venomous tone, Of course I know that little bastard won't be able to pass. If he can pass the 4th level, I can ascend to the 7th level. I just want to see with my own eyes how miserable he looks when he's thrown out of the 7 Stars Pagoda. At that time, I will definitely ruthlessly mock him, making him unable to raise his head again and become the laughingstock of the disciples of the various sects. The 2 young disciples revealed a playful smile and said in a mocking tone, It seems that kid has offended senior brother Qiao quite a bit. Hee, senior brother Qiao is very fond of Yun Yao. This year, Yun Yao didn't come, so senior brother Qiao didn't get to see the person he likes. Of course, he's in a bad mood. Just as the 3 of them were chatting, one of the 8 bronze lamps on the 4th floor of the 7 Stars Pagoda lit up. The huge bronze lamp lit up with a bright yellow light, illuminating the dark night. The 3 of them were immediately stunned. They all stared at the bronze lamp and their faces became gloomy. He actually passed? Xiao Xian's face was full of astonishment. Obviously, he couldn't believe this result. The other 2 young disciples hurriedly persuaded him, Senior brother Qiao, don't worry. It's just 1 lamp. Maybe it's senior brother Wen Yu who successfully passed? That's right. Senior apprentice brother Wen Yu also started from the 4th level, so he must have passed it. Xiao Xian was silent and waited with a gloomy face. Time passed quietly. Soon, 100 breaths had passed. At this time, the 2nd bronze lamp lit up on the eaves of the 4th floor of the pagoda. The 2nd lamp lit up? That kid and senior brother Wen Yu both passed? The 2 young disciples immediately revealed a surprised expression and whispered in disbelief. Xiao Xian's face immediately became extremely ugly. His eyes were surging with a cold light of anger. He growled in a low voice, How is this possible? That damn bastard, it's his first time here. How could he pass the 4th floor so quickly? A moment ago, he had vowed that if Ji Tianxing could pass the 4th floor, he could ascend to the 7th floor. Now, Ji Tianxing had obviously succeeded in passing the 4th floor. Xiao Xian was slapped in the face by the facts. He was suddenly embarrassed and ashamed. His face turned green and white, and his body trembled with anger. The other 2 young disciples looked at each other and smiled awkwardly. They didn't say anything more. Forget it. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go in quickly. Senior brother Qiao will go first. The 2 young disciples said goodbye and quickly entered the gate of the 1st floor of the 7 Stars Pagoda. They started to break through. Xiao Xian was left alone in the open space. He cursed a few times with a face full of anger. Then he quickly entered the 7 Stars Pagoda and started to break through from the 1st floor. Ji Tianxing was walking in a vast and desolate mountain range. He held the black dragon sword in his hand and looked around vigilantly. He was surrounded by endless dark brown mountains. The mountains rose and fell, connecting to the end of the sky. The mountains were bare. There were dark brown rocks and hard soil everywhere. As far as the eye could see, the hundreds of miles of mountains were dark gray. There was no greenery at all. Ji Tianxing was walking on top of a mountain range that was thousands of feet high. His figure was like a gust of wind as he flipped over one rock pile after another. Suddenly, he jumped over a huge rock that was as big as a palace and stopped. On the hard, dark brown ground, there was a huge and terrifying footprint. He squatted next to the footprint and carefully observed it. He found that the huge footprint with a radius of 2 meters was sunken more than half a meter deep. The sole of the footprint was fan-shaped. There were a total of 4 thick toes. At first glance, it was obvious that it was left by some kind of giant beast. He continued to walk forward. After walking for 20 meters, he found the same footprint. He frowned and pondered for a moment. Immediately, he analyzed a shocking result. The size of this beast must be huge. It can actually cross 20 meters in one step. It can actually make a half-meter deep hole in the ground that is as hard as a rock. Its weight must be shocking. Looking at the fresh footprint, it must have been left today. Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing's face became serious. His sharp eyes searched around. Although he had just entered the world of the 5th floor, he was not sure what kind of small world it was. But his intuition told him that this desolate and quiet world must be very dangerous. At this moment, 2 huge heads suddenly popped out from a pile of rocks 100 meters behind him. The 2 dark brown heads were as big as a water tank. They were sharp like crocodiles. Chapter 324. Hiss, hiss, hiss. 2 gigantic 5-meter-long dark brown behemoths slowly crawled out from the rocks. They looked like crocodiles, with their sturdy limbs stepping on the ground, leaving footprints the size of washbasins on the ground. They crawled forward slowly and silently, not making the slightest sound. When they were about 100 meters away from Ji Tianxing, they suddenly sped up and rushed toward Ji Tianxing like arrows leaving the bowstring. The 2 black behemoths were like 2 black afterimages, streaking across the sky as fast as lightning, and instantly rushed behind Ji Tianxing. Their sturdy limbs suddenly bounced and jumped more than 5 meters high, pouncing toward Ji Tianxing from the sky. At the same time, Ji Tianxing had already sensed that something was wrong, and quickly turned around. When he saw the appearance of the 2 black behemoths, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, and a look of surprise flashed in his eyes. Are these crocodiles or geckos? They're lizards. Ji Tianxing clearly saw that the 2 black behemoths' sharp mouths didn't have 2 rows of sharp fangs like crocodiles, but a long dark red tongue. The tongue was full of barbs, and the tip of the tongue was forked into 2 halves, like 2 long spears. He was immediately sure that the 2 dark brown behemoths were not crocodiles, but lizards. Oh my God, how can lizards grow to such a huge size? Ji Tianxing was full of shock, and quickly took out the black dragon sword to counterattack. However, something even stranger happened. The black dragon sword also became incomparably huge, and was much taller than his body. He hugged the black dragon sword with both hands, as if he was hugging a door plank, and looked very awkward and strange. Bang bang bang. Ji Tianxing slashed out a few sword lights with all his strength, but they were all smashed by the 2 giant lizards, and collapsed on the spot. The violent chi exploded, and he was forced to take 10 steps back, almost falling into the rocks. The 2 giant lizards missed their target, but they immediately bounced up and pounced on him again. Ji Tianxing hurriedly used shadowless steps to retreat and dodge. He desperately brandished the black dragon sword, slashing out sword lights that blotted out the sky and covered the earth as he fought with the 2 large lizards. At the same time, he used his spiritual sense to ask, "Little black dragon, what's wrong with you? Why did the black dragon sword become so huge?" The little black dragon was silent for a moment before replying in a low, muffled voice, "Old Ji, it's not me who's become bigger, it's you who's become smaller." What? Ji Tianxing was stunned for a moment, and his expression became extremely strange. He awkwardly dodged the attacks of the 2 large lizards and hurriedly retreated more than 10 meters away, hiding behind a towering pile of rocks. He lowered his head to check the condition of his body and found that his body and limbs had indeed shrunk by many times. At this moment, he was only half a meter tall and looked like a 4 or 5-year-old child. Damn it! How did it become like this? The tiny lizard became a giant beast, and I became a tiny human. What kind of world was this? Why is it so strange? Earlier, he had been walking alone on the mountain peak and had nothing to refer to, so he had not noticed the changes in his body. Now, with the little black dragon's reminder, he realized that he had become a tiny human and appeared especially weak. His mood was somewhat complicated, and his brow was furrowed in deep worry. At this moment, the two large lizards leaped over the pile of rocks and pounced down from above. To Ji Tianxing's shock, the two large lizards opened their mouths and spat out tensome dark red flames that covered the sky and poured down in torrents. They had clearly been enraged. Dark red flames surged out of their bodies and burst forth with an astonishingly powerful qi. Great Fei at the origin core stage? Ji Tianxing immediately frowned in shock. He had never imagined that the two large lizards would have condensed a Yao core and possessed strength comparable to origin core stage experts. At this critical moment, he had no time to think. He circulated his true essence with all his might and stimulated the strength of his left arm. In an instant, his entire left arm became as red as lava, and scarlet true fires surged out of his palm. He viciously slammed his palm toward the two large lizards, unleashing a gigantic flaming palm with a radius of 10 meters. Bang! With a dull thud, the two large lizards were sent flying by the flaming palm. They crashed into the rocks in the distance, black smoke rising from their bodies. He had to deal with two origin core stage Fei, so the black dragon sword was of no use. Thus, the black dragon sword transformed into the little black dragon with a whoosh. Xianyu also flew out of the 100 treasures brocade pouch and revealed its true form. The two of them wanted to join forces with Ji Tianxing to deal with the two large lizards. However, an inconceivable scene occurred. After the little black dragon revealed its true form, it was only a meter long. It did not look like a dragon at all, but more like a tiny black snake. Qianyu's body was also pitifully small. It was less than a meter long and looked like an ice blue puppy. How did I become so small? How can this be? This king has become a tiny little thing? The little black dragon and Qianyu both cried out in alarm, unable to accept this result. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing vaguely understood. The world of the 5th level is very special. Outsiders like us will become tiny and insignificant. The creatures and beasts in this world, on the other hand, will become enormous and powerful. Let's not worry about that for now. Let's kill those two large lizards first. Ji Tianxing immediately led the little black dragon and Qianyu toward the two large lizards, using all his strength to attack. Thousand Feather Blade. He released 9 dark golden sword rays, which carried an unparalleled sharpness as they shot toward the two large lizards. The 9 sword rays attacked the two large lizards from different angles and directions. They were unbelievably fast, and golden sword images filled the sky. The two large lizards were already injured and had no way of dodging the sword rays. They were immediately enveloped by the golden sword images. Bang, bang, bang. With a string of thuds, the 9 sword rays struck the two large lizards, causing blood to flow from their eyes, mouths, and other vital points. The little black dragon and Qianyu hurriedly launched their own attacks, unleashing ice arrows and blades of light to kill the two large lizards. The two gigantic lizards hissed and screamed in pain. They desperately released dark red flames and threw out balls of fiery light, launching a counterattack. The two sides began to fight on the mountain peak. They fought until the sky was dark and the earth was dark. The earth was constantly trembling, and the sky was filled with gravel and dust. After 15 minutes, Ji Tianxing, the little black dragon, and Qianyu had used all their strength to finally kill the two large lizards. The massive lizard corpses had been riddled with holes and shattered into several pieces, scattering across the rocks and large pits. Ji Tianxing stared at the corpses of the two large lizards, trying to figure out what was going on. The little black dragon and Qianyu rummaged through the corpses of the two large lizards, and it wasn't long before they found 2 fist-sized dark red pills. These 2 dark red pills were imbued with boundless energy. They were the Yao cores of the two large lizards. Chapter 325. Ji Tianxing couldn't help but frown as he watched the little black dragon and Qian Yu happily devour the Yao cores. The two of you are in such a hurry to devour the Yao cores. Aren't you afraid that something will go wrong? He was well aware that this was the 5th level of the 7 Stars Pagoda, a strange world where size was reversed. Things that were small would become huge, and things that were large would become small. Such a strange and bizarre world could very well be another illusory world. Since it was an illusion, then it was very likely that there was something wrong with those 2 origin core stage lizards. He couldn't help but worry that if the little black dragon and Qian Yu hastily devoured the Yao cores, what would happen if something bad happened? Qian Yu hurriedly explained, "Old Ji, don't worry. There won't be any problems. Although this world is very strange, those 2 lizards and their Yao cores are real. For me and the little black dragon, refining the Yao cores of other great monsters will allow us to quickly recover our strength. It is much more effective than consuming spirit pills or spirit fruits." Ji Tianxing nodded and said nothing more. He silently observed the reactions of the little black dragon and Qian Yu. It didn't take long before he discovered that the little black dragon and Qian Yu had recovered some of their strength. Their bodies had also grown larger. Seeing that they did not have any abnormal reactions, he relaxed and continued on his journey with the little black dragon and Qian Yu. After descending a large mountain, Ji Tianxing discovered several small dark red trees in a cave at the base of the mountain. The air in the cave was scorching hot and brimming with fire energy. Those small dark red trees were covered in dark red fruits that looked like red dates. Ji Tianxing stared at the fruit trees for a few moments before recognizing them as vermilion fruits, a precious spirit fruit. He hurriedly plucked the vermilion fruits from the trees and stuffed 2 of them into his mouth. The rest were stored in his space ring. The little black dragon and Qian Yu silently refined the energy of the Yao cores, no longer having much interest in the vermilion fruits. Ji Tianxing consumed 2 vermilion fruits, and his strength was greatly replenished and enhanced. He borrowed the surging energy from the vermilion fruits to constantly temper the apertures in his sword vein, silently increasing his strength. Then he was surprised to find that his body was also gradually growing bigger, and his size was slowly recovering. This lifted his spirits and gave him a better understanding of this strange and unknown world. He continued onward with the little black dragon and Qian Yu, ascending another mountain. On this desolate rocky mountain, he encountered a giant silver-gray wolf that was more than 30 meters long and as tall as a 3-story building. This demon wolf was naturally a greater demon that had condensed a demon core. Its strength was comparable to a 1st-level origin core stage expert, and its strength was even stronger than the 2 large lizards from before. Ji Tianxing observed for a moment and understood that the huge footprints he saw before were made by this demon wolf. On the rocky mountain peak, they were discovered by the demon wolves. There was nowhere to hide, and it was impossible for them to escape. As a result, he, the little black dragon, and Qian Yu could only fight back with all their might. He used the ultimate skill of the flying star sword technique and released a powerful sword ray to fight with the demon wolf. The little black dragon and Qian Yu assisted in the attack from the side, constantly releasing various blades of light to attack the demon wolf's vital points. Both sides fought fiercely, causing the mountain peak to shake violently. Dust and gravel burst into the air, and a raging hurricane blew up. This battle lasted for an entire 15 minutes before it came to an end. The demon wolf had been blinded in one eye, and its body was covered in crisscrossing wounds. Many of the wounds were so deep that bones could be seen, and blood constantly gushed out. Ji Tianxing, the little black dragon, and Qian Yu were all heavily injured, and their strength was greatly depleted. They looked exhausted and in a very sorry state. Seeing that the demon wolf was about to turn and flee into a cave halfway up the mountain, Ji Tianxing and the 2 pets hurriedly gave chase. They chased to the cave halfway up the mountain. Just as the demon wolf was about to enter the cave, Ji Tianxing used the scarlet true fire in his left hand and struck out a huge flaming palm with all his strength. Boom! The huge flaming palm that blotted out the skies smashed the demon wolf to the ground, and half of the cave collapsed. The demon wolf was as black as charcoal, and its body was twisted out of shape. It was already on the verge of death. Ji Tianxing and the two pets besieged the demon wolf for a while longer, and then killed it completely. After the death of the demon wolf, the little black dragon and Xianyu dug out a silver demon core the size of a wash basin from its body. Not only was the demon core huge in appearance, but it also contained the demon wolf's decades of cultivation, which was surging with power. Both the little black dragon and Xianyu were overjoyed. They excitedly swallowed the demon core and digested the energy contained within. As the demon core's energy was absorbed, the two pets became stronger and stronger, and their bodies gradually grew larger. In the next few hours, Ji Tianxing led the little black dragon and Xianyu over one mountain after another, killing wild beasts along the way. The wild beasts came in all shapes and sizes. There were mosquitoes that were as tall as a person, giant ants that were 2 meters long, poisonous scorpions that were more than 3 meters long, and giant pythons that were more than a dozen meters long. All kinds of small insects and beasts had grown into giant beasts, and all of them had condensed demon cores. This was an eye-opener for Ji Tianxing. He gave the demon cores to the two pets so that they could quickly recover their strength. As for the spirit fruits, apart from eating a portion of them, he put the rest into his interspatial ring. About 8 hours later, he had killed a total of 9 origin core realm wild beasts and obtained more than 30 spirit fruits. By then, he had successfully refined the 5th acupoint of the 6th sword vein. He was not far from reaching the 7th level of the ethereal realm. His body also returned to its normal size, returning to its original appearance. The little black dragon and Xianyu had swallowed several demon cores. Their strength had been greatly improved, and their bodies had also returned to their normal size. Finally, Ji Tianxing did not have to trek through the mountains on foot. He carried the black dragon sword on his back and rode Xianyu into the sky. He flew at an altitude of 1,000 meters, and his journey was uneventful. Even if he encountered many large wild beasts along the way, they could not attack him. About 2 hours later, he was flying over a mountain range. Suddenly, he saw a tiny white figure on top of the mountain, fighting with a huge demonic beast. He hurriedly told Xianyu to stop and slowly landed on the mountain peak. Not long after, the white figure finally killed the giant wild beast. However, he was also in a sorry state. He sat on the ground, exhausted, and panted heavily. Ji Tianxing landed on the mountain peak and saw that the white figure was Wenyu. At the moment, Wenyu was only half a meter tall, and his body was like that of a 4- or 5-year-old boy. His white robe was full of holes and bloodstains, and his body was covered in cuts and bruises. His long hair was also disheveled, and he looked very miserable. Ji Tianxing walked up to him and looked at him indifferently. "I didn't expect that you would also pass the 4th level and come here." Seeing that his body was normal and uninjured, Wenyu shouted angrily, "Ji Tianxing, you cowardly bastard! If you had joined forces with me, we would have already killed that damned spider and passed the 4th level. I wouldn't have been so heavily injured." Ji Tianxing frowned and sneered, "Wenyu, you and I are enemies, not friends. Why should I fight alongside you?" Moreover, in the 4th level, there were clearly open and honorable ways to pass it. But you chose the path of brutality and used slaughter to solve the problem. You only have yourself to blame for being injured like this and ending up in such a sorry state. You deserve it. Wenyu was heavily injured and in a sorry state. He was already in a bad mood. Chapter 326. Wenyu was filled with rage as he glared at Ji Tianxing, his entire body surging with cold, killing intent. However, he suppressed the anger in his heart and gritted his teeth without saying anything. He cursed in his heart, "Ji Tianxing, you damned bastard. Right now, I'm covered in injuries and my strength has dropped greatly in the 7 Stars Pagoda. I won't bicker with a bastard like you. After leaving the 7 Stars Pagoda, I'll definitely make you kneel and beg for mercy." Sure, Wen Yu bore this grudge in his heart and glared fiercely at Ji Tianxing before turning to walk down the mountain. Ji Tianxing could not be bothered with him anymore. He rode on Qian Yu and flew into the sky, continuing to fly forward. Before he entered the Seven Stars Pagoda, Yun Yao had imparted her experience to him. If he wanted to successfully pass the 5th level, he had to find the end of the world and the portal to the next level. At that time, Ji Tianxing thought that it did not sound difficult. Only now did he understand that it was extremely dangerous and as difficult as ascending to the heavens. After entering the 5th level, humans would become extremely small and insignificant and would have to face countless demon beasts that were as large as mountains. In a situation where one could not fly, if a small person wanted to find the end of the world, they would have to travel through the mountains on foot. Who knew how long that would take? Furthermore, while trekking through the mountains, they would have to fight against Origin Core Realm demons. It was simply too difficult. Fortunately, Ji Tianxing did not hide or run after encountering those demons. He fought side by side with his 2 pets and killed several demons. His strength was constantly increasing and his size had returned to normal. Now that he could fly in the air on Qian Yu, his chances of passing the level had increased by many times. After all, flying in the air was much faster than walking. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 2 days, Qian Yu and the little black dragon took turns to fly. The 2 of them flew for more than 3,000 kilometers in total and even stopped to rest a few times in between. Although Ji Tianxing had yet to find the end of the world, his strength and that of his 2 pets were still increasing steadily. He continued to search unhurriedly. Every 6 to 8 hours he would let Qian Yu and the little black dragon take turns to rest. Late at night on the 5th day, he finally arrived at the end of the world. It was a towering mountain that was more than 10,000 meters tall. Behind the mountain was endless darkness with nothing in sight. The 10,000-meter-tall mountain was a lone peak. The mountain walls were so steep that they were almost perfectly straight. Half of the mountain was covered by the sea of clouds. Ji Tianxing controlled Qian Yu and continued to fly up into the sky. After passing through the vast sea of clouds, they finally reached the peak of the giant mountain. The top of the mountain was flat, and there was a gate that was 100 meters tall, shining with white light. That was the portal to the 6th level. Qian Yu landed on the peak of the mountain. Ji Tianxing put the 2 of them back into the pouch and stepped into the portal. With a flash of light, Ji Tianxing's figure disappeared. In the next moment, he left the 5th floor of the 7 Stars Pagoda and entered the 6th floor, appearing in an unfamiliar world. He looked around and realized that he was standing on a green grassland. The ground was soft and damp, covered with grass that was half a man's height. Occasionally, he could see some wild flowers in the grass. The air was filled with the faint fragrance of plants. The sky was blue and white clouds were floating in the sky. He looked up and saw several rolling mountains in the distance. They were located in the north, south, east, and west. In the distance, there were many mountains of different heights scattered in the vast grassland. Every mountain range was covered by lush green forests. Thin clouds and mist rose from them, emitting a majestic aura of green wood. The air was filled with rich spiritual energy, turning this place into a land of treasures. Cultivating here would yield twice the result with half the effort and could quickly improve one's strength. Ji Tianxing walked in the grassland for a while and saw the situation around him clearly. He could not help but mutter softly, "What a treasure land with abundant spiritual qi. It'll be great if I can cultivate here for a long time." However, he was just thinking about it. He would not stay here. He kept in mind the purpose of this trip. He only wanted to pass through the 6th level as soon as possible, climb to the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda, and place the Jade Soul Coffin. Afterward, he released Qian Yu from the 100 Treasures brocade pouch and rode it into the sky. Qian Yu carried him into the sky and flew forward at lightning speed. When he reached a height of 1,000 meters in the sky, he saw a wider world. His mood and vision were broadened. Eldest senior sister said that the world on the 6th level is very special. There are no obvious dangers, but it's very mysterious. She said that this is a world of formations. I have to crack the most wonderful formation to leave this place and enter the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda. What kind of formation is the most wonderful formation? And where is it? Ji Tianxing silently pondered as he observed the mountains, rivers, and earth below. Very quickly, for hours passed. Qian Yu flew for hundreds of miles. Ji Tianxing also saw the situation within a few hundred miles. In the surrounding 500 miles, there was a boundless grassland with more than a dozen mountains scattered on the grassland. Looking down from the sky, the mountains looked like a dozen cows and sheep scattered in the vast grassland. In addition to the mountains, there was also a lake in the grassland. It was like a mirror, sparkling under the sunlight. Although the scenery was beautiful, Ji Tianxing was not in the mood to appreciate it. His heart was full of thoughts about finding the formation. Unknowingly, a whole day passed. Qian Yu and the little black dragon took turns to carry him, flying for a total of 2,000 to 3,000 miles. He saw the landscape within 1,000 miles, but still could not find a single formation. In his view, the scenery within 1,000 miles was pleasant grassland and mountains. It was completely primitive. Where was the shadow of a formation? But Yun Yao would not lie to him. He had to find and crack the most wonderful formation to see the passage to the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda. Ji Tianxing had no choice but to continue searching. His sharp eyes observed, not letting go of any clues. Another 2 days passed quickly. Ji Tianxing searched for 2 days. He observed several dozen mountains and even went into the lake, but he still could not find the formation. At noon, he rode Qian Yu high in the sky. His eyes were blurred as he looked forward, silently thinking. The most wonderful formation, just what kind of formation is it? He had been thinking about this question for 2 days. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind, and an unbelievable idea popped up in his mind. His body suddenly shook, and his eyes shone with a bright light. He looked up at the scorching sun in the sky and then looked down at the grassland and mountains below. He immediately saw some clues. Under the light of the noon sun, the grassland within 1,000 miles looked like a blue formation plate. The several dozen mountains and 2 lakes scattered across the grassland were like the network and foundation of the formation plate. Ji Tianxing was suddenly enlightened. He murmured in astonishment, "No wonder I couldn't find a single formation even after searching for 1,000 miles. So the grassland, mountains, lakes, and sky and sun in 1,000 miles are the formation of this world. With the sky and earth as the foundation, the mountains and lakes as the network, such a naturally formed formation is the most wonderful formation. So that's how it is. It is truly extraordinary and unimaginable." Ji Tianxing opened his eyes. Looking across the world, he finally saw the wonderful formation. This caused him to feel excited and enlightened, and it was extremely beneficial and helpful to his cultivation in the Tao of formations. Chapter 327. Using heaven and earth as an array was almost a godlike method. It was as difficult as ascending to heaven to crack such a divine array and find the entrance to the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda. If one did not have high attainments in array formations, broad vision, and great wisdom, it was absolutely impossible to see through it. It was also because of this that among the disciples of the various sects, except for Yun Yao, no one could pass the 6th level and reach the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda. Ji Tianxing understood this point, but he was not worried or flinched. His array attainments were comparable to that of an array grandmaster, and his experience and insight were extremely high. It was just that his strength had not reached the origin core realm. Qian Yu flew in the sky for a day and took him to 1,000 miles radius. In this way, the grasslands and earth within 1,000 miles radius, dozens of mountains, and 2 lakes were clearly imprinted in his mind. The scene of heaven and earth within 1,000 miles radius shrank into a picture scroll in his mind, like an array diagram. He sat cross-legged on a mountain peak, closed his eyes, and silently observed this array diagram, deducing and calculating a way to crack it. Time passed and the stars moved. Soon, another 2 days had passed. He deduced the array diagram in his mind thousands of times, and after repeated predictions and calculations, he finally found a way to crack it. This array formed by heaven and earth has a total of 49 mountains, and there is a lake on the east and west sides. Not only does this formation contain the techniques of the 9 palaces, it also contains the profundities of the Big Dipper, and it even contains the secrets of the 4 symbols divine dragons. The 2 lakes are the finishing touches that allow the entire grand formation to come to life. If that's the case, then I'll try the 7 stars reverse, 6 directions, and 3 mountains divide the 4 seas to crack the array. Maybe it will work. After making up his mind, Ji Tianxing rode Qianyu into the sky and flew toward the southwest. For hours later, he came to a mountain peak that was thousands of feet tall and began to use his array formation skills to set up an array. He spent an entire day to set up a top-grade profound grade formation that covered the entire mountain peak. The array absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from all directions and gathered a majestic and mighty power, secretly changing the array pattern of the mountain peak. A few hours later, an incomparably magical scene appeared. This towering mountain, which was thousands of feet tall and covered an area of 50 miles, actually began to move slowly. The 10,000 feet tall mountain rumbled across the grassland, moving 100 meters to the east before it stopped. Although the mountain had only moved 100 meters, this distance was insignificant compared to the size of the mountain. However, a mountain that was thousands of meters tall was actually moved 100 meters away. How terrifying was the power required to do that? Not to mention a Tongxian realm martial artist, even a Yuan Dan realm martial artist would not be able to do it. Only by using an array and borrowing the invisible power of heaven and earth could such a magnificent feat be accomplished. Ji Tianxing revealed a gratified smile when he saw that the mountain had moved 100 meters. Then, he rode Qianyu up into the sky and looked down at the ground, observing the movements of the surrounding mountains. I've already reverse-engineered the heaven and earth great formation. The movement of the Earth Palace's mountain peak will trigger a change in the entire great formation. Next, there should be some changes to the peak of the Tianqian position. As he spoke, he looked expectantly towards the northeast, towards a mountain peak 100 miles away. As expected, the mountain that was thousands of feet tall also began to tremble and shake, emitting an earth-shattering rumble as it slowly moved. After 100 breaths of time, the mountain moved 100 meters away and stopped moving. Ji Tianxing looked towards the southeast and muttered in a low voice. Next, the peak of the Taiyuan position should be moving. His words were like a divine edict, as if he could mobilize the power of heaven and earth and move the 3 mountains and 5 peaks. As soon as he finished speaking, the huge mountain 100 miles to the southeast also began to rumble and move. In the next few hours, the 40 over mountains within 1,000 miles were all pushed by the power of the heaven and earth great formation and moved 100 meters away on the grassland. In the end, even the 2 pearl-like lakes magically shifted their positions. Ji Tianxing used the power of the formation to move a mountain, but it caused a chain reaction in the entire heaven and earth great formation, causing every mountain and lake to move. Such a miraculous scene caused Qianyu and the little black dragon to exclaim in amazement, and they admired Ji Tianxing greatly. Compared to the vast expanse of heaven and earth, Ji Tianxing was as insignificant as a speck of dust. But he used the formation to borrow the invisible and mysterious power of heaven and earth to change the layout of this world. The vast expanse of heaven and earth in front of him was like a game of chess, allowing him to command and move as he wished. Such a method was like that of a god. After a few hours, it was already late at night, and the changes in the heaven and earth great formation finally stopped. In the center of the grassland, between 2 towering mountains, a dazzling white light suddenly lit up the night sky. The dazzling white light condensed into a huge hole in the sky. The hole was like a whirlpool, and it was pitch black inside, making it impossible to see anything clearly. But Ji Tianxing knew that this whirlpool-like hole was the passage to the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda. A gratified smile appeared in his eyes, and he rode Qianyu toward the hole of white light. The white light flashed, and his figure was swallowed up. A moment later, the whirlpool of white light suddenly disappeared, and the night sky became pitch black again, as if nothing had ever appeared. Ji Tianxing also passed through the spatial passage and arrived at the 7th level of the 7 Stars Pagoda. In a flash of light, Ji Tianxing's figure appeared out of thin air, and he landed on a round plate paved with black boulders. The round plate had a radius of 10 miles, and it was paved with countless ancient black stone slabs, and there were deep ravines carved into the ground. The countless ravines formed a dense network of lines and veined patterns, interweaving into a mysterious and massive diagram. Ji Tianxing could tell at a glance that the black stone plate beneath his feet was the formation plate of a large formation. The formation plate was surrounded by a sea of white clouds, and the sea of clouds was vast and boundless, as if there was no end to it. Ji Tianxing walked to the edge of the formation plate and looked into the sea of clouds, but he could not see what was under the sea of clouds. He looked up at the sky and saw a vast starry sky above him. The dark starry sky was dotted with tens of thousands of stars, forming a mysterious and vast galaxy array. Countless stars were shining with silver starlight, and they sprinkled on the black formation plate, causing the veined patterns on the formation plate to flicker with blurry starlight. So, this is the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda. Just as senior sister said, this is the place closest to the starry sky. What a magnificent sight of the sea of clouds and the starry sky. Ji Tianxing looked up at the tranquil starry sky, and his eyes were fixed on a pale red star in the northeast, and he revealed a gratified smile as he murmured in a low voice. "Cuckoo, I've finally reached the top of the 7 Stars Pagoda. I see it, that huge and dazzling star is the red pole star." Chapter 328. Ji Tianxing retracted his gaze from the starry sky and looked down at the disk array beneath his feet. Countless palm-wide ravines were carved on the black stone floor. They shone with a faint silver light, as if there were stars flowing within. He stepped across the ravines and walked towards the center of the disk array. In the center of the disk array was a huge engraving. It looked like a blooming lotus with 9 petals. Ji Tianxing knew that this was the 9-grade Lotus Platform Array Dao. It was a wondrous array above the Heavenly Prime level. Before he met Xia, he had always thought that the Heavenly Prime level was the limit of a martial artist. However, after Xia imparted the Formation Dao to him, he realized that there were even more wondrous formations above the Heavenly Origin Formation. It was the same for martial arts. There were even more mysterious and unbelievable levels above the Heavenly Prime level. Of course, the Array Dao and martial arts realms above the Heavenly Prime level were too far away from him. He didn't know much about it. He only had some guesses. The stamen of the 9-grade Lotus Platform Array was the center of the disk array. It was also the core of the 7 Stars Pagoda. There was a diamond-shaped silver crystal embedded in the stamen. It was as big as a fist, and it was translucent and sparkled with a bright silver light. As he got closer, Ji Tianxing could clearly feel that the silver crystal contained the power and aura of heaven and earth. It was like the moon in the sky. He knew that the enormous disk array beneath his feet was the legendary 7 Stars Array. The 7 Stars Array was the core of the 7 Stars Pagoda. Not only did it have wondrous effects, but it was also the source of power that supported the entire 7 Stars Pagoda. This 7 Stars formation had absorbed the power of the stars in the sky for many years and contained an incomparably majestic power of the stars. That was the reason why there were glistening silver lights flowing in the patterns and lines of the formation disk that were as dense as spider webs. And the silver crystal in the stamen was the core of the 7 Stars Array. It was of utmost importance. After observing for a while, Ji Tianxing used a secret technique and took out the jade soul coffin. Swoosh! Golden light surged in his palm and a thumb-sized jade box appeared. Through the translucent white jade, he could see a finger-sized girl lying in the jade box. It was the unconscious Jiku. He held the jade soul coffin with both hands and carefully placed it in the stamen. He then placed the jade soul coffin on the fist-sized silver crystal. The silver crystal reacted immediately, releasing a vast amount of star energy into the jade soul coffin. The jade's soul coffin absorbed the violent star energy and shone with a dazzling light. After refining the star energy, it transferred it into Ji Ku's body. Ji Tianxing couldn't see the changes in Ji Ku's body. However, he could tell that after the jade's soul coffin had transferred the pure astral energy into her body, her condition had stabilized, and her breathing had become more stable and peaceful. Ji Tianxing sat on the 9 lotus throne pattern and stared intently at the jade's soul coffin for a long time. Seeing that Ji Ku's condition had stabilized and there were no abnormal reactions, he was relieved. Then, he waved his hands and released rays of true essence to start the array. He wanted to set up a small tranquility array and seal the jade's soul coffin in the stamen so that it could absorb the energy of the silver crystal for a long time. If he were somewhere else, he would only need an hour to set up a small tranquility array. However, under his feet was the 7 stars array and the jade soul coffin was placed in the center of the 9 lotus thrones. The tranquility array he set up had to be compatible with the 7 stars array and the 9 lotus thrones in order to be effective. This made it more difficult for him to set up the array at least 10 times. Fortunately, he was an array grandmaster, which was why he could complete such a difficult task. If he were an ordinary ethereal enlightenment master, he would never be able to do it. Time passed silently. The vast starry sky and the stars in the sky seemed to be eternally unchanging. A day passed quickly. Ji Tianxing continued to release true essence from his palms and created rays of golden light, which consumed a lot of his true essence. At this time, he had used up 80% of his true essence and was extremely tired. Not only was his face pale, but his forehead was also sweating. Fortunately, he finally finished setting up the tranquility array and successfully placed the jade soul coffin. He slowly retracted his hands and let out a long breath. Phew, it's finally done. He looked down at the stamen and saw a palm-sized golden light shield protecting the jade soul coffin. He could not help but feel relieved. He looked through the golden light shield and stared at the small jade soul coffin. He whispered, "Cuckoo, you can sleep here peacefully. When you wake up, the power of the Big Dipper star will have strengthened your red star bloodline to an extremely powerful level. When that time comes, not only will you be able to refine the foreign race's power sealed in your soul, but your strength will also increase by leaps and bounds." Ji Tianxing's voice became weaker and weaker as he muttered to himself. He quickly sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. He silently cultivated to recover his true essence and stamina. In order to place the jade soul coffin and set up the small tranquility array, he had used up almost all of his energy and was extremely weak. At this time, he did not consume any elixirs or spirit fruits. With the help of the 7 stars array and the silver crystal, he could quickly recover his strength. As he cultivated, the silver crystal also released strands of silver light that flowed into his body. The silver light was the power of the stars. It was of a higher grade and purer than the spirit energy of heaven and earth. Ji Tianxing continued to refine the power of the stars. While recovering his strength, he could also use the power of the stars to refine his acupoints. 3 days passed unknowingly. After 3 days and 3 nights of cultivation, he had absorbed a huge amount of power of the stars. His strength had finally recovered to its peak. Moreover, he had also used the power of the stars to refine 3 acupoints. The 8 acupoints in the 6th sword vein had all been refined. Ji Tianxing had finally broken through the 6th level of the mystic enlightening stage and reached the 7th level of the mystic enlightening stage. However, at this time, a white light suddenly flashed in the silent 7 stars array. Swoosh! After the white light dissipated, a figure in a white robe appeared on the black array plate out of thin air. This person was Wenyu. His white robe was tattered and stained with blood and dust. His long hair was also tangled in a mess. He looked like a beggar with disheveled hair and a dirty face. However, he was exuding an arrogant aura. Standing on the black array plate, he looked up at the dark starry sky and laughed proudly. "Ha! Without Yun Yao, I, Wenyu, am the top genius. So what if the heaven and earth array is formed? With my knowledge and wisdom, I have only failed twice. I can break it on the third try. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.